Boom. And we are live.
Yodi.
What was I going to say to you? Yeah, you were saying that you're living in the Sticks, you're out in Kells.
Yeah.
And you're moving to Germany, basically.
Moving to Germany, yeah. As I was saying before we clicked record there, when we decided to move to Kells was because we wanted to live together before we got married, and we'd both kind of been playing in each other's bands but not really kind of working and writing together, so we wanted a kind of a space where we could do that, and that's what Kells did for us, I suppose. And we've kind of, over the last couple of years, we've written pretty much an album, and now we want to go to Berlin to record it and to sort of, soak up what Berlin has to offer and stuff like that. So
fuck, savage. And come here, forgive my ignorance, but when you say we, because this is you and your wife, Sarah May.
Exactly.
And have you a group together? Or?
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. We've got, Carmo is actually playing as well with us at the minute. He's playing kind of beats, electronic beats and stuff. And so he's not moving to Berlin now as well, but we'll hopefully get him over to record with us for, like, whenever we're recording a couple of weeks here and there, he'll come over and record with us and stuff. So.
And what does that mean? Like, to me, in my innocence, you write an album, you write 10 or 15 songs, whatever it is, and then you go to a recording studio, and over the course of a couple of hours, like, basically you can record, in my mind, you could record it as maybe twice as long as it takes you to just play it.
Yeah.
But that's obviously not the reality.
Yeah, I mean, the reality now is that you don't really have to do that unless you've got a really big production with with all the bells and whistles and lots of strings and whatever, then a studio becomes essential. But you can record at home, you know what I mean? Like, when I say we're going to record in Berlin, we'll probably do some bits in a studio, some bits at home. Like that's the way people do it now, really, is recordings are done kind of. Some people still do it the traditional way, where they go to a studio, like you're saying, and record. But most people kind of do bits here and there, and people record albums and they don't even meet. So it's done across the Atlantic, or like when we recorded Red Queen's album, like, we spent an eternity doing it. You know what I mean? We did it kind of the traditional way, but we had sort of time constraints and money constraints, meant we could just do a little burst of recording for a couple of weeks, and then we might have to wait a couple of months and do another burst, and eventually, like, we were recording pretty much over 2 years, for 10, well, probably recorded 13, 14 songs, but the final album had 10 songs on it. So it's kind of the way I'd like to record again would be to try to do it, not spend as long doing it, because you kind of, by the time when you start recording an album, and then 2 years later you're still finishing one of the songs that you started 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Your love for the song is gone.
It's died.
You're kind of going, this is, so I mean, I suppose the classic example is Chinese Democracy. Guns N' Roses were spending 10 years recording an album. Like, it's just, I don't know how you can do that anymore, you know what I mean? It just seems like madness, So, when I say we're going to Berlin to record, I mean, we're going there to live primarily, and to sort of, do bits of recording. Hopefully we'll do bits in the studio, and then we'll just record wherever we decide to live over there as well,
Right, cool.
So,
and whereabouts in Germany are you going? So
Berlin.
You said Berlin,
Yeah,
right? Cool.
Yeah.
And have you a place sorted, or what are you looking at?
Well, we've got a floor to keep on for the first couple of weeks. We're just going to go over kind of in dribs and drabs, because we have commitments that we need to fulfill here before we go. So we're going over for 2 weeks on the 10th of October, and we're going to try and get set up. Like, there's lots of German bureaucracy that you have to go through in order to be eligible to even try and get an apartment. You have to have a bank account. There's lots of different hoops that you have to jump through in order to even sign a contract to rent somewhere. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you kind of have to be there already. You can't just kind of get an apartment from Ireland and go and live in it. You kind of have to be there, and then sort all that stuff out. So we're going over for a couple of weeks to do that, and then we're home, as I say, for a few weeks to just do a few gigs, and then we go back in November then till Christmas and see how we go on then, So everyone's kind of saying it's a mad time to move because it gets so cold, like it gets really cold in Berlin.
Yeah.
Like, it's worse. The winters are much more cold than they are here even.
Yeah, continental climate.
Yeah, exactly. So, like, everyone says don't move to Berlin in the winter, but fuck it, we're gonna buck the trend,
Wouldn't be like you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And come here, typically when someone moves to like a foreign country and to work or whatever else over there, they get a job over there, and they pay their taxes over there and all that jazz. But you being a musician, presumably that's slightly different, is it, or is it, or what way does it work?
Yeah, well, I mean, we don't. Well, that's the way we live here. You know what I mean? We don't. I suppose by choosing to be a musician, it's all it's a little bit like a vocation or something. Like, not that it's worthy of fucking anything, but you kind of have to suspend security and you know, it's hard to make, you know, big plans because you don't have a regular income, and it's sort of like you make hay while the sun shines. Like, I suppose we use kind of cover gigs and, you know, doing corporate gigs and weddings and all that to fund what we really want to do, which is our own music, you know what I mean? So, like, yeah, so as moving to another country, it's not going to be like if you were going over there to work in the tech industry or something. Yeah, as you say, you'd probably secure a job, and so it's we're just going to have to try and make it happen. We'll do some busking and do some gigging like we do here, and probably get little part-time jobs and stuff, you know. So that's the plan, you know what I mean? Even though it seems very scary, and it is kind of, I'm apprehensive about it, but I'm excited about it more so than anything, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, of course.
Yeah.
On the creative side of things, it's traditionally been, I suppose, very hard to monetize your creativity, whether you're a fucking sculptor or a painter or a musician or anything.
Yeah.
But you could obviously argue that could you argue that we're in the golden age of monetizing creativity?
Yeah.
Because never before could you, let's say, sell a song to someone in Australia.
Yeah.
And have you found it any easier, or is there more people doing it, or just, you know, that kind of way? Is it a victim of its own success?
I think as you just described, it's there are pros and cons to the way music is consumed now and the way music is made. I think it's brilliant in terms of, as you say, you know, if you do it right, and if you can, you know, if you can target the right audience, you can find an audience everywhere. You know what I mean? All over the world. It's not. And you don't need what you traditionally needed before. But I suppose some of the cons is that you know, it's very hard to reach a really wide audience without the help of a record label or something like that. You know, still.
But do you need that? Because you know, I'm by no means an expert in this, but traditionally, you know, you needed 100,000 people, say, or more to, you know, buy an album, and you got, you know, 1% of that after everything was kind of paid. But these days, can you not sell to 1,000 people and get 100% of the money?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, yeah, you can. I mean, selling your music directly to your fans obviously is much more profitable for you, but it's I don't know. Like, I mean, people say it's very easy to reach a large audience on the internet, but it is. There's work in that too. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely.
You know, like, people, I suppose the big thing now is like targeting Spotify playlists and getting on those kind of things, and you kind of, it's the same kind of, you need to know what you're doing there. You need to be connected with the right people and all that, and that still takes effort, and getting your name out there as well. You know what I mean? So it's sort of, you know, it's there's lots of ways to go about doing it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Have you a Patreon account, or are you familiar with Patreon?
Yeah, I listen to some. That's kind of a. What is how do you describe Patreon?
I presume it's a format for people to contribute to the work of someone they would like to see doing more of that work.
Yeah.
You know, so like I'm a massive fan of a guy called Jordan Peterson.
Yeah.
Who, as it happens, I think he's earning $60,000 a month.
Yeah.
Through Patreon.
Yeah, I listen to the Second Captain's podcast as well, and they do it through Patreon, and I know. It's interesting because I was just doing the sums in my head. I subscribe to their podcast, and I think it's €5 a month or something plus.
And so, I'm not familiar. Do you have to subscribe, or do you have to pay to listen to it, or is it free?
They have some free content, but then if you want to have access to all their content, you have to subscribe.
Right.
They used to do a podcast for the Irish Times, which was free. I think it was twice weekly. They do one football one and one kind of general sport one. But now they have content every day. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think you can still. I'm not sure actually. I think you can still access some of the ones that were free previously. But now, if you want everything, you have to subscribe €5 a month. You know?
Yeah.
But I was looking at sort of how many subscribers they have versus €5 a month, and like they're doing really well. Because I kind of question, like, why are they leaving a big establishment like the Irish Times to go out on their own, you know what I mean?
Yeah, of
course.
But
it seems to be paying off for them, you know what I mean? If you do the maths, it's they're obviously, you know, they obviously had done the research, and I'm sure they're reaping the rewards of going out on their own and trying, because they had already reached an audience. They were confident that they could get that number of subscribers to make it sustainable, and then they have, like, you know, so fair play, you know.
No, fucking fair play again.
Yeah, and the kind of it's allowed them to diversify as well. So it's not just sport anymore. There's a great weekly kind of political podcast, and he's done some great ones about, you know, stuff in Charlottesville and you know, sort of the rise of the alt-right and all that stuff. So yeah, it's great.
I think to me the best thing about that is the autonomy. You know, you can say what you like basically, and you don't have, you know, the editor of the Irish Times breathing down your throat.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
And even with this, with my own podcast, it's funded by my actual job.
Yeah.
Which is, you know, like you're saying, you're going to Berlin, you might end up getting a part-time job or a job doing this, that, or the other. You're not selling your soul, but you're no more than I am. We're not selling our souls, but we're doing what we have to do to fucking pay the bills. Like, because our creative thing mightn't necessarily pay
exactly,
the
and that kind of brings it back. That's basically that in a nutshell is what is sort of my way of life. Is that you're doing things to allow you to fucking pay the bills and to live, I suppose, and to eat, and then, you know, that's, I suppose, you're doing that to I'm doing that, or we're doing that to kind of allow us maximum time to be creative, you know. That's what it is. Like, it's giving yourself more time in which to do the things that you're passionate about doing, you know what I mean, which in our case is music, and trying to, you know, create an identity that's our own, you know, and to try and do something new, and, you know, as well as kind of paying heed to our influences and all that, you know. That's, and, you know, going and doing gigs and doing little bits and pieces here to fund that is what it's all about, like, you know what I mean. That's what it is, like, you know.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
As you're saying, like, this is what your passion is, and you're using your real job I hate that, I shouldn't have said real job, but you're using your main sort of income to fund this, like, you know what I mean?
Oh yeah, of course, yeah, absolutely. I remember being asked a question. I was doing some fucking business course or something years ago, and the guy running it asked the group of us, what would you do if you won the lotto? And like a lot of people said, oh, you know, how much is the lotto? Is it this million, or is that, you know, because $1 million isn't as much as you might think it is, and blah blah blah. You know, fuck's sake, whatever enough money for you is, pick that figure, whether it's 500,000 or 100 million. If you had it in your bank account, what would you do? And everyone in the room was the same as myself, left kind of sitting there going, no one had a ready answer. I don't think most people do. But I think it's important, because if you sit down and think about it for long enough, and I did at the time, and at the time I would have said train and study full time. That would have been my thing. But then when I asked myself, you know, how much do you need to train and study full time? You don't need $1 million. You don't need fucking 100,000. Like, if you got if you got minimum wage throughout the year, you'd fucking be happy, and you could train and study full time. Fucking happy days. So, like, my business isn't massively profitable, but it does allow me to train and study full time, which is what I would do if I won the fucking lotto.
Exactly.
Like, so
That's it's a good way of looking at it. Absolutely, it's I think people can equate, obviously people who equate happiness with the sort of accumulation of wealth, but it's not, you know, I think it's, you know, it's been proven to be untrue in so many cases.
I think so. Yeah, they have a figure. I think for the States, is it's $60,000 or $70,000 a year. That, let's say, if just for argument's sake, it's 70,000. So if you're on 30, 40, or 50, or anything below that, anything more that you earn, the closer you get to, say, that magic number, say it's 70, you will literally get happier. With every fucking tenner a year more that you earn, you will get marginally happier. You hit that 70, everything else after that, it's just, you're not going to get any happier. And even, I think happier is the wrong word. I think too many people, like I did for years, kind of wanted to be happier and strove to be happier. But I think if you have purpose in life, or if you have a goal, or if you have something that you're trying to achieve, like with you, it might be, you know, releasing an album, or reaching people, or maybe creating something original, or whatever it is. Like, I think you'll be more fulfilled, because happiness is kind of fleeting. Nobody is ever happy for long periods of time. That kind of way. Absolutely, But you mentioned, I don't know how you mentioned it, but the alt-right and that. Are you political at all? Do you dabble in politics, or do you have an interest in the? I suppose I'm kind of, you know, like everybody else, just kind of. I wouldn't say I'm overtly political. I take an interest in it, absolutely. I suppose I like reading and listening to opinion about it. Yeah, for sure. And what would your sources be? Like, would you listen to the radio? Would you watch the news? The typical kind of routes, or would you?
I do some of that, but then I also try and look for alternatives. You know, like listening to podcasts and stuff like that would be one way. And then I do, yeah, like I would read articles in the Guardian, and then I'm also like, I dabble a little bit, although I despair a little bit with some of these YouTube channels that are kind of giving you supposedly alternative and are giving you alternative news and stuff like that. But it's very hard to get a grasp on what's really going on. You know what I mean? There's so many contradictory so much contradictory reporting and stuff. So
yeah, one thing on that I love is this phenomena of fake news. Personally, I think fake news is fantastic, and whatever this podcast turns out to be, there'll probably be a YouTube channel and whatever else attached onto it. I wouldn't rule out the idea of purposely putting out misleading, false material out there. The idea being that more and more, I think people are feeling that they don't know who they can trust, and I think that's better than taking everything that was on the news and online as gospel.
Yeah,
like I remember when I was writing the blurb for the website for the business, I wrote the testimonials.
Yeah.
So I kind of and now I got the okay from the people I was representing.
Yeah.
When you're actually involved in doing it yourself,
but that's it. Like fake news is not new. Like fake news is news. Like, you know what I mean? I mean, it's like history being written by the winners or whatever. It's just, you know what I mean? It's not a new phenomenon. You know what I mean? And as you saying, writing the blurb, it's interesting you saying writing the blurb for your business. Like, I mean, bands everywhere do that. You know what I mean?
Of course.
You're writing, and you're kind of writing it about yourself, but it's appearing like it's not. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a kind of a weird thing to do. It's a weird feeling when you're kind of doing that, or even when somebody asks you, so what do you sound like? You know what I mean? Or what's it like? It's a very hard question to answer because you're so in it, like, you know what I mean? And I suppose then you try and clutch at other people to compare yourself to, or other bands to compare yourself. That's the easy thing to do, but it's it's just one of those uneasy things to do. You know what I mean?
But I think it's cool, and I think it's something that people typically don't get the chance to do it, and it's not until you start kind of putting out material, whether it's the blurb on the inside of your fucking album cover or anything, until you start really going, okay, I can just put whatever I want, and like there's no crime you're breaking by just completely lying about stuff. And it's not until you actually kind of realize that you, I suppose, can fully question what you kind of read and see and hear online. Was it the Times, the LA Times and the New York Times got caught out there a couple of months ago. They ran a story, I don't know what it originally appeared on, but it turned out to be a fake news story, and they got caught with their pants down from having kind of just regurgitated it.
And then they had to do the apology and all that, isn't it?
But their apology was fucking hilarious. Their apology was, very sorry, caught with our pants down. From here on in, we're only going to report on what we know to be true. You're like, are you fucking serious?
Yeah.
The omission of guilt there, that they would have just fucked up any other thing that they could have gotten away with. Like.
Yeah.
And to think of what they'd got away with, pre-internet.
Yeah.
Like, at least now they can get called out on things.
Exactly.
Someone can see it and instantly it can go viral, and they can look bad. But pre that, what was in the fucking papers was gospel.
Yeah. Absolutely, and I suppose that the internet allows us to question everything because you can do your own research and all that. But I just sometimes despair about what will become of truth? We have to base a lot of decisions on what we see as truth. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
About what's going to happen next or the future. So I just worry about where will all of the questioning and the sort of conspiracy theories, etc., which are all. Not all, but some are valid and some, need to be questioned. But I worry a little bit that, we will have no basis on which to base our opinion of truth on. You know what I mean, or what is fact. You know what I mean? It's. I think it's great in one way, but I also kind of worry a little bit about how far it can go.
Yeah, I think so. It's a weird one. But I think the more kind of fake news stories that are kind of exposed, the more people, like I find myself now, if I'm reading an article and the the person that I'm reading is saying what somebody else is saying, I'm more and more inclined to Google the name of that person and check out his Twitter page and see what the fuck he's saying.
Yeah,
kind of getting it from the horse's mouth.
Yeah.
You know, that kind of way.
Yeah.
Because I think we don't need large media organizations to disseminate all the information. In that kind of way, because anyone with a phone or a laptop or whatever it is, that's right beside whatever is happening can report on it live. And like, there's obviously downsides to that. You're getting people's subjective opinions, but I think there's a resurgence in journalism coming. I don't think it's here. Like, would you name a couple of journalists? Like, I couldn't. I couldn't name a couple of journalists that I would turn to when something kind of happens. That you want to kind of find out about.
There's one or two that I would like read fairly regularly. All right, but it's like Fintan O'Toole I like, and
well, who's he now? I wouldn't know him at all.
Times,
right. And
I don't read him every day, but when I do come across something he writes, I kind of I appreciate. I suppose I can see where he's coming from. That kind of way.
Yeah.
Or like, I suppose the Ken Early I love as well, who's on that Second Captain's podcast, and he's doing the kind of political ones every week. So and I would read a lot of him and listen to a lot of what he has to say. Just like the cut of his jib. Just like the way he goes on.
Yeah, of course.
You know what I mean? But yeah, no, I know what you mean. Like, I don't have a big long list of journalists that I turn to. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, but at least you have a couple of people.
Yeah.
Because I think most people that you'd ask that question to, they read the Independent, say, or they read the Star, or whatever, whatever newspaper it is, or they watch the Irish News. Which the thing that kills me about the Irish News, not that I watch it, but people seem to think that it's kind of perfectly objective. And because it's kind of state run, it's not private. There's this aura that there's no agenda. Now, I'm not saying that they do have a strict agenda to put forward one thing or another, but they certainly don't have no agenda.
Yeah,
absolutely.
If that makes sense. Yeah. I mean, the obvious one is the reporting of the water protests and all that. Yeah, I mean, they have to have an agenda, I think.
And because I wouldn't have followed that, because I don't listen to Irish news at all. Like, I never listen to the radio, never watch the news. I don't watch television generally.
Yeah.
So I would have missed out on the water protests. So what do you mean when you say that'd be the obvious example?
Well, it was just a reporting of the numbers of protesters that were on marches,
And what, they were played down?
Absolutely, they were played down by RT. Yeah. And I mean,
to what end? Because it's the government, and they were the protests were a roundabout way of complaining about the government.
Absolutely, yes. Well, I mean, they're a state body, so
of course,
it's they just downplaying it makes it less of an agenda.
Yeah.
Which it really was. There was no denying that it was it had a huge effect, and it sort of mobilised so many people. So I mean, their agenda for not reporting the figures correctly is that that they hoped that they could dampen the protest, and sort of that they could implement the charges, and they almost did. It was close enough, and I'm glad that they didn't. You know what I mean? Yeah,
no, it's great that the people came forward and stood up against it. But again, these days, like, the reporting, for example, said there was 5,000 people there. But if you've got some lad with a smartphone and he takes a picture of 10,000 people. That's up and it goes live.
Exactly, and that's why it's so naive to try and even think that you can give a misrepresentation of something like that when there's thousands of people there with smartphones that can actually prove
otherwise.
Like, yeah. So I suppose that's the good thing about technology, that you can you don't have to rely on the so-called traditional sources for facts, you know what I mean?
No, absolutely. Yeah. Speaking of technology, and you just made me think of something there. Like, for example, Google would have been in a position to tell you how many Android phones were on a particular street at any particular time.
Yeah.
So they could have come out and said, the press is reporting that there was 5,000 people there, but we have 12,000 registered Android phones within this kind of area.
Yeah.
And that's obviously not everybody that was there, because there's other makes that
exactly
we can't track or whatever. But it's kind of scary, the power that the kind of the tech companies have. Google, I think, in particular. Like, are you familiar with different things that like when you let's say Google a particular thing, especially if it's kind of political, like the answers that you're given, like Google's algorithms give them to you. It's not that it's perfectly objective. And have you ever thought of that, like how tech, like how influential it is?
Yeah,
and how
well, that's I kind of feel pretty strongly about. That's the side of technology, the sort of nefarious, and I suppose that the thing in the Trump campaign where I'm not going to remember the names of these companies. I know they were this company that was based in Oxford or Cambridge that was targeting, let's say, your preferences on Facebook. Do you know anything about this stuff?
Yeah, vaguely, probably as much as yourself. So between the two of us,
yeah. I'm great for kind of half remembering stuff.
Well, so am I. So hopefully it's the alternate.
But
half.
This side of technology just terrifies me, and the nefarious nature of it, and like where in the Trump campaign where they were targeting, let's say on Facebook you like, let's say you're a man and you like, beauty products, okay?
Yeah.
They make an estimation that you're probably gay or whatever, and then they can decide, well, we're not going to target you with our Trump agenda because we know we're not going to get your vote anyway.
Yeah.
And then let's say you're a man and you like muscle cars on Facebook. Do you like these pages and all that? Then you go, well, they're going to be receptive to our message. So, it's individually targeting potential voters, whereas before political campaigns were, I suppose that's the mistake Hillary Clinton made, was probably targeting large groups of people. That day is gone, and well, I mean, it's there as well. Obviously, you can target large groups of people too, but it's much more tailored. It's much more tailored to people who are going to be receptive to your message. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, traditionally you targeted millions of people.
Yeah.
Now you target millions of people individually.
Exactly.
So in a fucking really kind of scary way.
I just exactly, and it's.
I should have pulled that up.
Sorry. And it. Some people might say, well, what's wrong with that? But I just think that it doesn't allow you to sort of. It presumes that you're one way, and it presumes that you're not going to change, and I kind of that stuff kind of terrifies me.
It is terrifying.
Yeah.
And like you said, that your the expectation is that you're not going to change your mind. But how are you going to fucking change your mind if everything that you see online kind of lights up?
Yeah.
The things that you like having lit up in your head.
Exactly.
Yeah. And you're left with echo chambers, and you're left with a fucking divide, which America has now in a bad way.
Yeah.
Half the country isn't talking to the other half of the country.
Yeah.
Like anyone who voted for Trump is an asshole, and anyone who didn't vote for Trump is an asshole.
Yeah.
And you can see, like, it's hilarious. Like, how can you think that half your population is either stupid or crazy?
Yeah.
Like, surely you're fucking missing something. But when all you see on your social media, say, or when you're online, is, Trump supporters are racist, or are bigots, or are this, that, and the other, and that's all you see.
Yeah.
You assume that they're seeing what you're seeing.
Exactly. Yeah.
So you're looking at the other and saying, like, how can you even think like that? I mean, are you not looking on the internet?
Yeah.
But what they mean is, are you not looking at my tailored internet?
Exactly, my version of the internet. Yeah. I'm guilty. I'm not above that. I fall into that trap. You know what I mean? I suppose that the stuff that I am that way too. I read the Guardian. I'm probably your classic lefty. You know what I mean? But I'm trying to be as aware of that as possible, and because I think there's a sort of an element on the sort of where I would base myself, kind of liberal left wing. There's an element of that which is kind of shouting down people as well. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think it's getting more and more prominence. The sort of liberal views that are not allowed to be challenged. You know what I mean? Or that. And I think need to be careful of that too. You know what I mean?
I think that's hilarious the way that's happened. Are you familiar with Antifa?
No.
Antifa is short for anti-fascist.
Right.
So I don't think I'm doing them a disservice by describing them this way, but Antifa are a group who will essentially petrol bomb a white supremacist rally.
Yeah, yes, it's so.
It's
Yeah,
fucking it's mad. Like they're
Yeah.
so left or right. Like
Yeah,
like,
exactly. Yeah,
it's
yeah.
like, remember that the game of Snake on your
Yeah.
Nokia? It's like they've gone so far left,
Yeah,
come out
yeah,
on
yeah.
the right. Like.
Yeah.
And you're seeing more and more of that, and I think it's kind of it's exposed on college campuses, because you follow even Rogan and a couple of another American kind of based podcasts and that, and even the likes of your man Jordan Peterson. Like in Canada now, it's illegal for you to not use these new gender pronouns. Like it's actually illegal.
Yeah.
Like you have to by law
that
call
stuff is
someone something.
Yeah.
But words that you can't even say out loud, like the N word, is perfectly legal.
Yeah. That's what I'm talking about. That stuff is just it's gone mad. Like, you know what I mean? It's just
you're driving people into the hands of the right then, and I think that's a big part of why Trump is in particular has been successful. People are just fucking fed up with that.
Yeah.
They really are, like. But it's interesting, even the fact that you know the difference between left and right. Like I'd love to do a poll of Irish people, even if you just randomly asked a couple of hundred people in Navan or in Dublin or wherever where they were in the political spectrum, and all you're looking for is to see what proportion of people know what the fuck you're talking about.
Yeah.
Not to find out whether they're left or right or not, but to see if they say left or right or ask you what do you mean.
Yeah.
Because I genuinely don't think most people know that there is a spectrum.
Yeah, exactly.
And a lot of people who would consider themselves politically minded and would watch the news and would read all the papers, and even those guys don't know the difference between the left and the right and liberalism and conservatism. And it's just a fundamental. It's like trying to be an engineer when you don't have adding and subtraction. Do you know, like, I know you don't have the kind of basics, and it's obviously not taught in schools. Politics, not in secondary school. Like I did business and I did economics, but there was no real politics in it.
Yeah.
Did you do anything remotely like that, or like you went down the college route, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, but I don't. Politics. I don't remember feeling that there was a kind of an overtly political element to anything I was kind of learning. You know what I mean? It was just, I don't remember feeling that.
But would that be a way of counteracting it, that you teach kids, even if you were to show them that there's a left and a right? Do you know that kind of way?
Yeah.
Your man Jordan Peterson, my new boyfriend as I call him, I'm just a massive fan of him, but he's a clinical psychologist with a speciality in personality.
Okay.
And I've been listening to him a lot about how our political persuasions are actually in a large part due to our biological makeup, like the physical components of your brain.
Wow. Okay.
Fascinating
stuff.
Like.
And more so than nurture, or more so than your surroundings when you grow up, or
there's a certain amount of both.
Yeah.
But I don't know if the scientific community has kind of settled on it's 10% one and 90% the other, or that it's 50-50. I think it varies kind of case by case, but I don't think that there's an argument anymore, at least, that it's all one or the other. It seems to be kind of absolutely a mixture of both. But that's kind of scary as well from a kind of a profiling point of view, because you mentioned it yourself, like let's say on Facebook, they know maybe one or two things that you've liked, they know maybe where you live, they know where you post, let's say if you commute, they pick 4 or 5 things and they've got you fucking nailed. They know you better than you know yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
But my, again, kind of entry-level understanding of the personality things is that there's 5 main personality traits. Extroversion, which is, how outgoing or not you are. Conscientiousness, which is how orderly or how hard-working you are. Openness, which is how creative or intelligent you might be. Agreeableness, kind of self-explanatory, how agreeable you are. And then neuroticism, how kind of much in your head you are. But if you're, for argument's sake, high in conscientiousness, odds are you're going to be a conservative. You like orderliness. You like things the way they should be, and marriage is marriage, and doesn't necessarily include fucking a fish and a donkey that want to get married or anything fucking before or after that, like. And then openness is synonymous with, I think, with kind of creativity.
Yeah.
And if you're a creative person, typically you're going to be kind of left leaning because you don't like the order and everything else. But again, that's my
You're all for the fish and donkey.
yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
But you see, you as a creative person, and there are very few of you, but you're in your own echo chamber, because odds are you probably know far more musicians, say, or artists or creators than somebody who isn't creative. And, you know,
Yeah.
we're all the same.
But it's exactly. And it's
we hang around with people similar to us.
Yeah, exactly. And it's, I suppose, you're being an artist, it's a fickle way of going on, because you're kind of, you know, you're creating something that's not, it's not really going to be for the betterment of anything except for, you know, and you're putting it out there to be liked or disliked, you know what I mean? So it's kind of, it's a sort of, what's the word? It's like, it's a funny position to put yourself in, you know, you're kind of, well, here it is, like, take it or leave it, you know what I mean? There's no sort of security in it or something, as I was saying before, you know?
And how do you find I don't know, rejection is probably the wrong word, but like, it's one thing creating something, and then there's another thing kind of, you know, publishing it and putting it online.
Absolutely, yeah.
So how do you do you do
Well,
that?
I
take a deep
yeah,
breath,
I do.
close your eyes and hit, you know, upload.
I do, yeah. I mean, yeah, exactly. And you try and rise above it, but you can't. Like, it's like some things you do, some things you can look at that you've done. I think you need time to get perspective on it, because I think most of the things that you put out at the time, obviously, you think this is pretty good, you know, or this is, you know, this will stand up, or else you wouldn't press that big red button. You know what I mean? But then, I suppose, with time, you can kind of see the things that worked and didn't work, and things you do differently, and so I suppose you can get a perspective that way. You know what I mean? But yeah, that's it.
And what can you rate? Like, if you create something and you fucking love it, and you know it doesn't get any kind of traction, say, online, does that bother you, or do you need, what's the word? Do you need I can't think of the word.
Yeah,
but
I think I know what you're getting at. I've gotten better. Like, I suppose when I was a bit younger, the validation was
validation.
Yeah,
that's the one.
The validation would have been, obviously. I mean, everybody has that. I think in anything they do, you know, you want it to be recognised for what it is. And I suppose in what I'm doing, it probably does mean, you know, how much reaction it's getting or whatever. But I suppose, now I'm kind of, it's more about am I doing the best that I can do? You know what I mean? It's not. I don't look so much outside for the validation. You know what I mean? I'm kind of, although I still need some of it to kind of justify. You know,
drag yourself out,
justify my existence, or you know what I mean? But I think I'm getting better at kind of going, well, what do I want, and what will make me feel fulfilled in this, and that, you know, and that's, I suppose you're weighing up both of those things, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, big
the
time.
sort of the look at me and the sort of you know, focus on what you're doing, that kind of thing.
No, because it came up recently with me. I caught myself asking the question, what do people want to hear in relation to the recording and conversations?
Which is a very natural question to ask yourself.
Of course,
yeah.
And I was trying to think, you know, what would gain traction and what would do this and what would do that, and then I just kind of caught myself and I was like, fuck's sake, man, have the kind of conversations that you want to have, and, you know, fuck the hypothetical audience.
Yeah.
And if it resonates with a load of people and it becomes popular, it was fucking brilliant. And
Yeah,
get a bit of feedback of what people like and dislike. You can maybe use that as a guiding rod, I suppose.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's plenty of people, and I suppose there's plenty of musicians that do that too, that they find an audience or find something, they click onto something that they're good at, and they just keep doing that for the rest of their career, or, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And fair play to them, you know what I mean? That's fine, you know what I mean? But it's not something that interests me really in terms of, you know, I suppose someone like Radiohead, they split a lot of people, you know what I mean? People can love them and people hate them, you know what I mean? And I was at a gig with them last summer, and a couple of people that I were with hated the gig, and other people loved it, you know what I mean? And but what I admire about them is that I suppose Creep was 25 years old this week, which is kind of terrifying, you know what I mean? And it's just how far they've come from that in terms of what they're trying to do now, and just I would see them as having grown as people and sort of, you know, they're sort of challenging themselves and challenging their audience. Like they would have lost a lot of people along the way, and they would have gained a lot of people along the way.
Yeah.
And I find that trajectory much more exciting than even somebody who I love, like the Rolling Stones. Fantastic, but they just stick to a formula. You know what I mean? Now it's a great formula. It's a fucking really good formula. It works. Like, and I love them. You know, I love them. But I just kind of find someone like Radiohead a bit more interest in terms of they've challenged themselves and challenged their audience more so. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think that's cool about that Song Exploder podcast. I think that gives an insight into what is music, because I think more and more these days we're given so many beats per second that you like kind of click and we find catchy, and even if you hate it, you find yourself singing along to it. Like, but I think if you could increase the popularity of something like Song Exploder, it would make people kind of question what they're listening to a little bit more. Yeah,
I had an interesting conversation with a fella recently, and he teaches songwriting, and he was talking about there's basically two guys that pretty much write all of pop music now.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They write songs for everybody, like, you know, Katy Perry, all the supposed chart artists, you know, Rihanna, and it's like it's like they have a factory system. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it is what you're talking about. There's all these formulas that you have to take, and they've got people that they go to for the hook. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They've got people they go to for creating the beats. They've got people that you know what I mean. So they oversee it all. You know what I mean? But it's like, it's just, where is the soul in that? You know what I mean? It's, for me, it's like, I mean, and it doesn't mean I don't appreciate this kind of pop form. And there's always been formulas that you stick to when writing a good or a hit song. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they are not to be dismissed. But the sort of factory nature of it now, where it just all sounds the same. You know, I know it sounds like the typical old man, but there's no soul in it, and there's no sort of striving for something unique or to stick your head above the parapet to do something different. You know what I mean? It's just, and like, even when we were younger, like, it seemed like chart music was in a better place than it is now. You know what I mean? Like, you had certain songs that got to the top 5 or got to number 1 that were different and were
on their own merit.
Yeah, exactly, on their own merit, or you know, people doing it themselves. You know what I mean? Like, as opposed to sort of you know, a sort of a big industry in the background of somebody who just fronts it, like, you know, a pop star who just fronts it. You know what I mean?
But sure, I mean, you literally see it, like like it's mad. It sounds like it's something I'm envisaging, but the likes of, you know, X Factor or all these different programs, they fucking show you how this stuff is made.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like, they get 20 or they get 2,000 people or whatever it is up, and they pick the best 5 looking fellas out of it. Whether they can sing or not is kind of beside the point. They have to, you know, there has to be the really cute one, the little pudgy one, and there's even a formula to the look of them. You get the right look, and then you employ one of the two guys that you referred to there a minute ago, who are basically the composer of half a dozen other different companies whose niche is the beat and the this and the that and the other. Meld it all down together, and you've got a number 1 hit.
That guy I mentioned that I was talking about songwriting, and he's teaching, I suppose, young aspiring songwriters, and I suppose when I was talking to him, he seemed to be, his perspective, and he comes from a very much a pop background, and he didn't deny that, and why should he? You know, his parents were huge ABBA fans, and fantastic, you know, but I kind of worried a little bit that his focus was on, in terms of the knowledge he was trying to impart to young people about songwriting, was in terms of it being sort of commercially successful and being in the top 10, you know, whereas I was kind of going, well, there's a whole other world of songwriting that's about sort of soul searching, or trying to have some sort of, you know,
message
or you know, trying to make it feel something. You know what I mean? I mean, I could name list off a reel of names of them. You know, that, you know, that's not what songwriting is about for me, or you know, for thousands of others. You know what I mean? And for a huge audience. You know, I think, you know, chart music is not who is it for? Like at the minute, it seems to be for kids. You know what I mean? It's not.
It is. It is for kids.
Yeah,
isn't
yeah.
it? I mean, if you look at like I wouldn't be close to it by any means, but I would have thought that everything that's in the top 10 charts now isn't even being bought by the kids. It's being bought by the parents, kind of for their kids.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah.
Like, are adults buying music anymore?
Well, I still do. I think there are people, and I suppose with the vinyl resurgence and all that shows that there is. I suppose it's sort of. I was talking to this with Kev last night, or some. I don't know if it was yesterday or some stage, but just suppose the tactile nature of owning something, and having like I still do. I know. I think adults. I think I have a lot of friends that still do buy music. But
when you say buy music, are they buying vinyl or CDs or like paying for it online or?
I think they're buying. I think I know a good few people are buying vinyl. I suppose it's not the majority by any means, and it's not the way like when I suppose when we were in our teens, you'd buy loads of you'd buy CDs. You know what I mean? Those days are gone. I don't know anybody who buys CDs anymore.
Yeah.
But I think there are, and I think I'd like to think it's on the way back a little bit. Like when all your music is a file on a computer, it just loses its. I think you lose magic with that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I just love buying a record and seeing reading who produced it, seeing the effort that's gone into the artworks. I just love all that. You know what I mean? But I suppose that's my big interest. So why wouldn't it? You know what I mean?
Yeah. But aside from that, though, I think even you that would prefer that, you'd probably sooner see people, even if they're downloading it, even if it's for fucking free, illegally.
Yeah.
You'd sooner see them illegally download good music and not the tripe that's fucking trotted out.
Or if somebody asked me, or like, would you prefer if somebody downloaded your music illegally or not listen to it?
Yeah.
Obviously, I'd prefer if they downloaded it illegally and listened to it.
Yeah, of course.
Do you know what I mean? Even if I don't get a red cent for it, I would still prefer that, and that's the reality. Like that's what's going to happen, and that's what that's what does happen. You know what I mean? I do download stuff, and I'm not like a purist about it, but I do I suppose have an affection for and it is the hipster thing of buying vinyl and all. I'm aware of that too. Like it's sort of the latest vinyl or whatever, But I just love it. I love the whole sort of the process of it. I suppose your man Jack White from the White Stripes has, he's got I don't know if you know about he's got a place. I think it's in Detroit, or no, it's actually in Nashville, where there's a recording studio and there's also a vinyl pressing plant in the one building.
Right.
So he did this thing recently where he recorded a song and pressed it and then got it to his shop in 24 hours or I don't know, something like that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That kind of thing. I find that kind of cool and exciting. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I suppose part of me loves the kind of advances in technology, and then part of me is sort of a retro freak. You know what I mean? I love old things, and I like, you know what I mean, and the sort of the care and the sort of ingenuity that went into making things in the past. You know what I mean? As opposed to everything being streamlined in a factory and all that. You know what I mean? I kind of like the old craftsmanship of things like that.
No, absolutely. And I think there is a bit of a craft resurgence. In all aspects, whether it's beer or music or whatever else. But I wonder, maybe you'd be closer to this now. With beer, it fucking kills me. You have the likes of Diageo, like they have, half a dozen craft beers out there. It's not fucking craft beer.
Yeah.
Is there the equivalent in music? Like, are the big labels pumping out vinyl?
Yeah, they are. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, yeah. I mean,
in a bad way or a good way or in a different way?
I would. It's slightly different in terms of that. I think, like, for them to put out vinyl, I just think them to go back to sort of a physical copy of music, I think is a good thing. I don't think it's a bad thing. So that's fine, whether it's a small indie label or a big label doing that. I think that's fine. I think what you're talking about, the Diageo kind of sort of almost underhandedly kind of saying, "Oh, we're entering the craft beer market," is kind of a bit more underhanded or something in terms of like, we know you're not a craft, like, we know you're not a craft brewery. You're
a craft brewery that employs 25,000 people.
Exactly. Yeah. So do you drink craft beers and stuff? For
No, not really. But what I've started doing is like I wouldn't drink a whole pile full stop. Like, but when I am out, and I started this a couple of years ago when craft beers became a thing. I started asking for, I'd ask a barman, what craft beers they had. I couldn't help but feel like a craft beer wanker.
Yeah.
But I've since changed my tact, and what I ask for now is Irish beer.
Yeah.
And more often than not, they don't have it.
Yeah.
I was in the Royal, I don't know, 6 months ago or so, and I asked her had she any Irish beers? No, I asked her, I asked for a bottle of brew or something. They didn't have it. And I was like, fuck's sake, like, they're down the road, for fuck's sake. You'd think you'd support them, but they didn't have it on here for whatever reason. And they said they had, I don't know if it was Cute Hoor or Galway Hooker or one of those. And I was like, I'll get that. What's the one with the eyes, kind of Cute Hoor?
Yeah.
Got that, and was like, I don't know who I was chatting to, but I was saying, they were asking me, oh, is it nice? I was like, I don't know. Beer tastes like beer to me, like. But I'd sooner put a few quid in the pockets of some lads in a shed in Galway than I would, Heineken.
Absolutely.
Who owns fucking...
Oh, they've been bought out, haven't they?
Of course they have.
Yeah.
Of course they have. And again,
but
this is what I'd hate to see happen to...
And that, I get you. I kind of know where you're coming back round to music now. Yeah, I mean, small indie labels get bought out by the big fish all the time, but they often still release under the same independent name. But yeah, like that does happen in music too, where you think you're buying independently, but really they're owned by Sony or BMG or whatever. You know what I mean? Yeah. That happens for sure. Yeah.
And is there any, like, can you take Sony money and still be true to what it is that you're doing, or are you just automatically poisoned by what they're going to make you do, or would you have an insight into that at all?
Not really. I suppose it depends on the artist. I think if you're selling enough copies, you can kind of dictate to them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, true enough.
Like who am I trying to think of? Like there are art. Who was it? I watched something recently, and they were just completely left alone by I can't even remember who it was, but basically the artist was just left. It's a huge artist, and I just can't think of them now. But they were left alone to their own devices, even though they were signed to a huge label. You know what I mean? Because they had the ultimate trust of the label. You know what I mean? And they knew. I suppose the label knew that it was going to be. But I think for somewhere in the middle, you probably would have a lot of sort of A&R men knocking on your door, or whatever, record executives kind of, wanting to hear the hit and wanting to make sure that that's what their money was they were going to see a return on their money. You know what I mean? If they're investing money in you to make an album, they want to make sure that it's going to sell. You know what I mean?
Of course, a return on their investment or whatever else. Like.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And is it still the case? Like, I know it was years ago, or at least that was the line, that whatever makes number one is just whatever's been promoted the most. Is that still the case, or?
Oh, I think more so than ever. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. I can't think of an album that made it. I think songs can come out of somewhere, like singles can still come out of nowhere and do something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I don't think I think albums are different. I think, I suppose in Ireland, like you have, I think Ham Sandwich had a number one album last year, or a couple of years ago, whenever they had their last album out, and that's fantastic. I mean, they're an independent band, so I think it can happen. I don't really know, to be honest with you. I don't.
Of course.
But I think on the most part, it's just whoever has the biggest promo, as you say, gets there. You know what I mean? Yeah.
And you were saying, like, it could take you, 10 years to record an album or such. I heard an interesting one recently. I don't even know who it was, but it was some guy who had made a show for Netflix.
Right.
And it went live on Netflix, and they dumped the first full season so that you could watch it. And what happened was, it was massively successful, and everyone that was interested in it had watched it from start to finish within a week. And it was like, right, so when's season 2?
Yeah.
Is there that element in music when you do come out with something that there's always that, when's your new stuff? When's your new stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. For sure. Yeah. Like, you're only as good as the thing. It's happened so quickly now. You know what I mean? Like bands. Like, even you notice the way they're sort of how they release stuff now is completely different. Like, before you might have one single or two singles maybe out before an album came out.
Yeah.
Now you have 4 or 5 songs come out before the album's even available. So it's like, I suppose you need to constantly be releasing stuff to maintain an interest in it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, that's true. You need to constantly be doing stuff.
And did you ever think of, like, here's one for you, if I haven't fucking said it to you before. will you please, or fucking get somebody else, please, to write a fucking Christmas song?
Yeah, okay, yeah.
What the fuck? The last, like, 20 years, Christmas songs haven't been anything remotely to do with Christmas. They've just been, whatever.
A song that came out on the 21st of December or whatever.
Pretty much,
yeah,
and it's usually, like, X Factor or whatever, because it's
Yeah.
obviously a massive market, like.
Yeah.
But I don't see why somebody hasn't, A, done a Christmas tune,
Yeah.
or B, done, like, a political tune.
Yeah.
Or not even a political tune, but you saw that song that was written for McGregor.
Yeah.
Do you know that kind of way? So if, hypothetically, if you were to write a song about, let's say, McGregor or some fucking something that resonated with people and people were talking about, it might only be, it might literally only be a joke or something that kind of went viral, but at least it would draw people to, your stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
Is that a route people go down at all?
I think it is a route. For me that would be a little bit cynical to do something that's sort of tongue-in-cheek in order to just bring them to your music. I think it depends on the type of music you're doing. Like, I suppose, like we kind of take ourselves quite seriously, and it would be a mismatch for us to do some sort of thing that's almost novelty. It wouldn't match in with what we do ordinarily. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think it would be too cynical a move to do something like that for what we do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I think if you're someone like your man with the McGregor thing, like let's say he comes along with an album now that's not a million miles away from the McGregor song, well then fair play to him. Like, why wouldn't he do something like that? You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I'd love to see him come out with an album akin to, let's say, one of your albums.
Yeah.
And for it to gain a bit of traction purely because he just fucking...
Yeah, maybe so, yeah. I mean, there's a fella in Dublin called Anderson who did this really... he did this great video a couple of years ago where he sort of went around his area in Dublin and kind of was going door to door selling his album, you know what I mean?
Right.
And the video was really well done because he'd built his little studio out in his back garden, and it showed you that process, and then it showed you kind of just snippets of him recording, and then he was going out door to door, and then he was sort of, there was footage of him interacting with the local dubs and stuff like that, and him trying to, and he had the personality for it, but the video went kind of massive, you know what I mean? Because it was funny, like, and the idea of selling your music door to door, was kind of funny, and he got, it gave him a great platform, and I thought that was really cool because it didn't, there was no cynicism to it. It was genuine. You could see it, and then it was funny, and then his music was great as well. So that was I think that kind of creative marketing stuff is really cool. You know what I mean? And I suppose I don't know if I have the head for it, but
it's a job in itself.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
you're busy creating, and you'd have someone else busy promoting.
Exactly, but and that's another element of being a musician. Now you have to be all that. You can't just sit there and be the creative and not be willing to fucking send the emails and not be willing to be familiar with all the different platforms that you need to put your music up. You know what I mean? You learn so much about the business side of it because it's on a DIY level. You do, even if you're bad at it like me, you get some understanding of what goes into it. You know what I mean? Yeah. So
an appreciation for
exactly appreciation for it. Yeah.
Because it's the same myself with my business, and even down in here, like I wired all this up myself, and below it's the same. I'm the plumber, I'm the electrician.
Yeah.
The sparky or whatever. You have to kind of do a bit of everything. Which is good in a way, but it's obviously very limiting as well. If you're fucking busy doing everything, that you're not really focusing on what it is that you need to do.
Yeah. You need to become expert at time management, you know what I mean? Which is not one of my fortes either.
But see, that's the thing. It's not really a left-leaning person's forte.
No, it's not. It's not. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But that sort of regiment, you need to almost be a little bit more regimented,
But you see that the people who are fucking super regimented couldn't create something if their fucking life depended on it.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
So you need the mix, like, you know.
That's it. Yeah. You do need the balance of it. Yeah.
You mentioned the platforms that you have to be up on. That's one thing that I wanted to ask you. Is there somewhere that people, like, let's say myself, I'm not a massive fucking audiophile by any stretch of the imagination, but I do like music, and I don't buy into I wouldn't listen to the radio. Literally wouldn't turn it on.
Yeah.
Least of all to fucking hear music, whatever about listening to like some sort of debate or something. But Song Exploder will be a good one for me to find new music, say.
Yeah.
What are the platforms that, let's say, you and creative people, like genuine creative people like you, would use?
I suppose it's because I'm into it. There's lots of different places I'd go for.
But is there a more, what's the most successful one, say, or what's the most mainstream one, say?
To be honest with you, let me see.
Or is there a space?
I'm trying to think of people who I love now and where I discovered them. I'm in love with a fella called Cass McCombs at the minute. I think I actually am in love with him. But and where did I suppose I found him on like Pitchfork is one of the biggest American kind of new music websites.
Okay.
So.
And are you on Pitchfork?
No, I wouldn't be. Hopefully someday I will be, but that would be that would be a sort of a aspiration for sure, right, to be featured on something like that. But but that wouldn't be the only way I'd find it. Like, I suppose word of mouth would be still a lot of ways I would find it. Like, and I do listen to certain radio shows as well. Like, I love listening to BBC Radio 6, which is just a digital radio station, BBC radio station, but they just play great music all day. And there's a woman called Lauren Laverne who presents a show from 10 to 1 every day, and she's brilliant for discovering new music. In Ireland, then, like stuff like Paul McClune I'd listen to on Today FM in the evenings.
Again, the two examples you gave, you have to kind of be A, by a radio, and B, at a particular time. Like, do they have podcast versions of what they do, or? Yeah,
you can listen back to what they do. You know, if you don't catch it live at the time, you can listen back to it, and I do that a good bit. All right. And then, like, it's funny. It's funny when you think about where you discover music. It kind of just seems to find you when you're. And I suppose, like, I'm constantly listening to stuff that I would have discovered years ago. Like, my dad would be a huge influence on me musically. Always has been, like, in terms of stuff he would have exposed me to when I was young. Like,
yeah.
You know, I'm constantly finding myself, like, stuff that he would have played for me years ago, and I'd be going, "That's shite, Dad. What the fuck's that?" And now I'm kind of a massive fan of it. Like, someone like Tom Waits, for example. Like, when you hear that when you're 11, you're kind of going, "Are you for real?" Like, you know, I want to be a rock and roll star. I want to hear Oasis or something. But now, you know, obviously your taste mature, and someone like Tom Waits is amazing to me now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or, you know, there's loads of examples like that where, you know, so. Constantly going back and listening to old music. Like another band like the Blue Nile, I've listened to a lot lately, and I'm trying to think where. It's a name I would be familiar with. Kind of a Scottish band from the 80s. They're very slow at releasing stuff. They release stuff maybe an album every 8 years or something.
Oh, right.
They've got about 3 or 4 albums since the 80s, like, you know. But I'm trying to think. I think I heard a documentary about them on the radio or something, and then it made me go and discover them, and now I love them. You know what I mean? So I suppose I find music in lots of different ways. And then stuff that's on, like, social media, like stuff that other people recommend, friends on Facebook or stuff on Twitter. I would find music that way as well, I suppose. And
typically, who finds your music appealing? Or what type of person would typically find your music? Or does your music fit into, like, a genre or a mixture of genres? Or
that's the kind of thing it's hard to describe. I suppose we haven't released enough stuff. We haven't. We haven't released anything that we've written together yet. So that's why I'm kind of excited about this next project is going to be. Like, so before, obviously, I released the album at Red Queen, which was myself and the 3 lads. You know what I mean? And that was a rock album. You know what I mean?
Red Queen.
Yeah, absolutely. That was a rock. That was coming from a place of, you know, all a hodgepodge of all the different influences that the 4 of us had. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you could, you know, and it was alternative rock or whatever. And then Sarah May would have kind of released a couple of EPs. One which she just did herself, and then another EP which had drums and guitar on it, and that would be kind of, you know, her influences would be Kate Bush and Tori Amos and stuff like that. And so the stuff we're doing together, not that it's a sort of a, you couldn't directly say that it's sort of an element of the rock I was doing Red Queen and an element of the sort of singer-songwriter stuff that she was doing herself, but it's somewhere within that. It's somewhere like a meeting of those two things. Not that it's not going to be rocky. It's kind of much more dream pop, I suppose, how you describe it.
Dream pop.
Dream pop. Yeah.
What's dream pop?
Well, there's bands we like kind of like called beach house and stuff. So it's kind of the sound we have is sort of, so it's like lots of synths, and she's playing like a we don't have a bass guitar, so the bass, sort of the low end of the sound, is filled out by a bass synthesizer.
Yeah.
So it's not very intricate. It's just kind of big low notes, like not very fast bass playing, or you wouldn't be able to. And then I'm kind of playing very reverberated guitar and kind of lots of delays, and then both of us are singing, and then we have Karma doing kind of electronic beats. So it's kind of okay, dream pop. I should have done my homework before I came in here. Dream pop, I suppose it's sort of it's kind of, it's nothing too in your face. It's kind of the music is kind of relaxed. It's not really kind of, it's not punchy. It's not sort of, it's not, I suppose it's kind of anthemic, but in a sort of a relaxed way. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because I was going to ask you, like, for me that knows nothing about this, is it something that you fucking dance to, jump around to, or
no,
this would be kind of background music, or sitting quietly and enjoying it kind of thing?
Yeah, exactly. It's not
Alt-J-esque kind of.
Yeah, in a way, yeah. Alt-J-esque is, yeah. Although I think they have some songs you could jump around to. You know what I mean?
True enough.
And I suppose we will as well. Like, but it's kind of like, I suppose, if you, not to get too arty, but it's kind of like a wide lens or something, like that kind of feel, like a big spectral feel or something to it. That's what we're going for. You know what I mean? Not so, like, it's not nothing's too kind of in your face. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the sound, what we're going for, hopefully, is kind of a sound to be kind of, things kind of interweave with each other, and you can't really pick out any individual thing above anything else. You know, it's kind of a woozy mesh of things. You know what I mean? That's kind of what we're going for.
Cool.
You know what I mean? So it's it's not going to be like fist pumping the air or something. You know what I mean? Although, that's what I suppose, that's what it is to me. But it could sound different to somebody else. You know what I mean? You know. But
yeah, anything that's truly creative, I suppose, is always a bit like that.
Yeah.
Like, you'll never get a definitive answer of what a painting is supposed to be, or
yeah, exactly.
You know, what
it is subjective,
yeah, or whatever. What are you called, or do you have a name? Or
We've just been operating under Sarah May's name, because she was releasing EPs under her own name. I suppose it's kind of, and the weird spelling, Saramai. So it's not. It could be a band name, because it's not. It doesn't really look like how you'd spell it. But we're gonna have a new name for when we have a new release. So
okay.
we've just been operating under that name, because that's she's released stuff under that name already, and you know, people are kind of familiar. We did other voices on the TV, and you know, we've kind of done things that not that we're widely known or anything, but that, you know, we have some sort of, the name is out there in some sort of way. So
yeah,
we've just been using that just because it's just been easy to do, you know. But I think it would be a misrepresentation of the new sound to just use Sarah May's name.
Yeah.
Plus, I want to get my bit in there. I want to be just sort of an afterthought. You know what I mean?
Of course. Yeah. On the name, you that's I suppose such a purist, you might call it. Would you sell out on the name? Like, let's say if you came up with a name that you both loved and you thought was a great name, would you listen to somebody who was, let's say, like an ad salesman, or, you know, that kind of way, and say, no, what's wrong with your name is, for example, as you pointed out, it's not, you can't spell it phonetically, so you're going to lose half the people who try and search it.
Yeah.
Like, where do you stand on the likes of that, or would you just play?
Well, I suppose I've learned a few things, like I suppose I came up with the name Red Queen Countess, and like, it's not a name that rolls off the tongue. It's not a name that anybody's, like, even if you hear it a few times, it's hard to remember it. You know what I mean? Now, it meant something to me at the time, and that was fine. But I think, like, it is important that you have a name that sort of stays with people. Absolutely, I don't see anything wrong with choosing. I don't think that's selling out. I suppose that's sort of being sensible. Like, you want people to remember the name. You know what I mean? And in hindsight, I would come up with something a bit snappier than Red Queen Countess. You know, but yeah, like I suppose I've had conversations with people about the name Ham Sandwich. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which obviously that name sounds like the name of a band of people who started the band when they were teenagers and they thought that would be funny. You know what I mean? And it is, you know, and then I suppose they release really great music and they're taking themselves seriously as a band, and I know people would have said to them, oh, you need to change the name if you want to make it internationally, and you know what's the story with the name, like, you know, I can't take you seriously with a name like Ham Sandwich. But in fairness to them, they've stuck with it, and you know, and I respect them for that as well. I respect them for not going, oh yeah, you're right, we need to change their name. You know what I mean?
Yeah, of course.
I kind of admire it because they obviously started the band for fun and a bit of crack, and they're still together and they're still doing it and they still have the same name. So I kind of respect that they've done that. You know what I mean? Even though the name to a lot of people is ridiculous. You know what I mean?
On Red Queen contest, there's the Red Queen problem in philosophy that it came from Alice in Wonderland. The idea was
that's exactly where I got it. Yeah.
You have I got this right? The Red Queen problem is in psychology or philosophy,
It's
or either or.
in science and in
The idea being that in the Red Queen's kingdom, you had to run as fast as you could
to stay in the same
still.
place.
That's
Exactly.
what it was,
Yeah. I was reading a thing about a book called Shantaram, and the phrase came up in that about it's sort of like where a parasite fights the host, sorry, no, that's a bad example. Sort of where a disease fights the body, and the body has antidotes to try and fight the disease. You know what I mean?
Okay.
And it's sort of that's the Red Queen contest. You know what I mean? Where both sides are kind of fighting each other. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's sort of I used to be able to explain that a lot in a more concise way, but it's been that long. But yeah, I mean, I don't know why I thought that was a good name for a band. I suppose I don't know why I thought it was a good name for the band at the time. It's been that long ago. I kind of forget why I thought it was a good name, but I just loved the book at the time. And I thought, oh yeah, I suppose I just thought it was a cool concept or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know if I thought about it applying to the music, and I must have in some way, but I can't even remember why or how. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, of course.
Yeah,
and again, that's your fucking creative brain doing it.
Yeah.
I think that might be why artists such as yourself aren't more popular, kind of generally, because I think it's objectively true that your music is better than, like, without even having listened to your music, but creative people's music is, I think, objectively better than the shit that's on the radio. But the reason that it doesn't get the airtime is because conscientious people who are very orderly and very by the book, and
don't want it.
Well, it's not even that they don't want it. They would find it very hard to deal with.
Challenging, yeah.
Do you know the kind of way? Yeah. Because like they want you to come up with a kind of a name, and you have this mad thing from fucking Alice in Wonderland. It's them that's just like, oh my god, how can I work with these people? And you're there, oh my god, these fucking suits. How do I fucking work with these people?
There is an element to that, even though it's absolutely, Some people want the lowest common denominator, and just so they can consume it easily. But
there
is a huge, I suppose it ties in with the online. There is an audience there for all different types of music, though. You know what I mean? And I suppose touring is where that's sort of where you need to be, is touring. That's where you can make a living, and that's how you can make it sustainable and allow you to do the next recording, is to try and get to a level where you can go to different cities, and even if it's, let's say, a Whelan size venue or something, if you can play venues that size in lots of different
cities.
Yeah, exactly. Not that you're not going to be making lots of money by any means, and especially if you've a big band, you know what I mean. But if you can keep it nice and concise, that's probably the realistic way of making it sustainable. You know what I mean?
And is there a kind of cart before the horse element there, that you can't play these gigs without a following, and you can't get the following unless you play the gigs?
Yeah, exactly. There is, and I suppose we touched on it earlier on. I don't really know. It's how you do all that. You know what I mean? Even though I've been doing it for a good few years, like, you just have to keep doing it and hope that it finds an audience, and do everything you can to give it a chance to find the audience. Whereas other things like syncing come into it, where you're trying to get your music onto an ad or used by syncing, yeah.
Okay.
So basically, that's what getting your song onto an advert. That's what that's called, syncing your music. You know what I mean? Syncing it with a brand or being used, or to be used in a film or used in a TV show or something like that. That's the way a lot of new music is sort of discovered, I suppose, and that's the way a lot of new artists are making money, is by doing that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because I've even seen I suppose it's as much as an advertisement for Shazam as it is the tune, but you'll be watching an ad and the little Shazam symbol will actually come up.
Yeah.
For you to prompt you to find out who the song is or whatever else. Like, and I know myself, I've heard That's how I've been exposed to new songs or new artists. Of that is like, because I think I actually stumbled on Alche.
Yeah.
They were on the. I was watching some program on BBC, and you know the way they don't have ads, but they will have. They're not ads.
Yeah, their
but
music
they're,
is lose so much in that, because I think it lends itself. Certain bands' music lends itself for that sort of. Was it used in the kind of background of?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think there was a woman actually talking, and it was just kind of
Yeah.
in the background, like.
Yeah. It's funny, some bands' music really lends itself to that, to be used in that way, and that can be very lucrative for them too. You know what I mean?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
From what they're getting paid and from the exposure that it gives them, I suppose.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like, so the start of, well, it feels like the really big start of that was Jose Gonzalez. You know, Heartbeats was used. I think it was for a TV advert. You know what I mean? And it really launched him as a artist. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And there's loads of artists like that now that kind of, oh, that's your man from the ad, or that's that band from the ad, or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah, of course.
I suppose you could be cynical about that. Is that, you know, people would argue, oh, that's selling out. You know what I mean? But I don't. I think the fact that nobody buys music anymore, then I mean, it makes sense. And why wouldn't you use something like that in order to gain an audience? Like, I'm not cynical about. Now, it depends on the product.
Yes.
It depends on the product for sure. There's certain, you know, there's certain products that you wouldn't be ethically, people wouldn't be ethically comfortable with allowing their music to be used to advertise. But I think as a premise, it's absolutely, why wouldn't an artist do that if it's gonna bring listeners to them, like, you know?
Yeah, I think there's a pushback against anyone being successful as well.
Do
you know that kind of way? Like, whether you're on an ad or you're doing this or you're doing that, and you get successful and you actually, you know, you make something of it, and all you're doing is pumping out tunes and making money, and you're having a fucking, you're living the dream, basically. Fucking, you know, wanker, fucking sold out. You know,
exactly.
You don't have any scruples unless you can barely fucking keep the lights on.
There's
no. I don't know. What I found is people have this opinion that anybody with less money than them isn't as smart or as hard working as them, but anybody with more money than them, you know, did something underhand, or, you know, fuck someone over to get
dichotomy, there is that's interesting. That
I don't know if that's an Irish thing.
Yeah, well, that's the begrudgery, isn't it? I don't know. That's
is
still
begrudgery an Irish thing? It's definitely a thing.
I think so.
I don't think I've travelled enough to notice it.
I'm not much. Does the word begrudgery exist? And I don't know. I definitely associate it with Ireland, begrudgery.
So would I. 100%.
I'm not sure whether it's a word used by other people. I don't know if it is, to be honest. It sounds like one of those very Irish Irishisms.
Because I think in America, if you become successful, you're automatically kind of celebrated.
Oh yeah, fake it till you make it. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I've only spent a short amount of time there, but yeah. And it's the side of America that you can be cynical about. You kind of go, oh, come on, give us a break. But then they are so good at selling themselves. You know
Very
what I mean?
Very much so.
And I used to, my opinion has kind of changed on that. I used to kind of, you know, as Irish people, I think it's ingrained in us not to shout from the rooftops too much if we feel like we're doing well, because of that fear of being sort of seen as getting above your station. But I don't know. I wouldn't like to say I want to go full on Yankee in it, but you can learn a lot from that sort of positivity or something. You know what I mean?
I think so. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, even the power of positive thought and that, and as you say, kind of faking it till you make it, or not like fake it till you make it. I think it's almost a, or maybe this is just the Irishness coming out of me. It's almost like a derogatory.
And maybe they're not really related. I don't think it's kind of different, something slightly different, I suppose. But
putting your best foot forward and fucking and kind of going for it.
Exactly. Yeah, just going for it. I suppose it's that attitude of just going for it, and you know, even like when people go bankrupt in the States, it's not really. I don't think it's as shameful as it would be here. You just go, you go bankrupt, you go again. You know what I mean? I suppose it's I don't know.
I wonder, is it a population thing as well? Because in Ireland, like, if you, I suppose, not so much these days, but certainly pre-internet days when the world was a lot smaller, and you knew who you knew, and what am I trying to say? In America, I think you could walk down the street in an American city in, a pink suit with your cock out, and you could walk the length and breadth of the city and go home, and no one would know it was you, or no one would notice. But if you did that in Navan, you'd be kind of ruined for the rest of your life.
I think that's true in some parts of America, maybe not in all
course,
parts.
of course.
But well, I suppose that's what the scenario you just described is kind of something I'm excited about in Berlin, because I really think Berlin is a city like that, where like anything goes, kind of way.
Yeah.
And I suppose I'm looking forward to getting kind of immersed in that.
I wonder, is that a population thing? Because you say that that's true in certain parts of America, but obviously not others. But those other parts are probably the lower populated kind of places.
Yeah, exactly. And I heard somebody saying recently, like, small towns are small towns everywhere, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Actually, with Pat McCabe, he was on the radio yesterday, the guy that wrote The Butcher Boy, and, he was on with Ray D'Arcy, and Ray D'Arcy was kind of saying how he identified with it because he comes from small town. He grew up in Kildare town, and, the characters and the kind of world that Pat McCabe paints in The Butcher Boy is sort of familiar to anybody who grows up. I suppose Ray D'Arcy said in any Irish small town, but then Pat McCabe countered it and said, well, small towns are small towns everywhere, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That mentality is not just unique to Ireland, Irish small towns. Like, small town mentality is, one horse town is kind of, they're everywhere, you know what I mean? They're across the world, you know what I mean?
And you've nowhere to hide, and
and everyone knows your business, and
yeah.
I suppose there's kind of mad people who are kind of assimilated into the population, and people, things happen, and they're swept under the carpet, and all those things that happen, like, in small towns, I think.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I can see how you'd be looking forward to the, I suppose, freedom. Do you in Berlin, because no one knows you? It's a massive city. There's everything going on. Do you feel shackled here to any degree? Is that why a lot of people kind of leave? Yeah,
maybe so. Shackled, shackled is a strong word, but yeah, I suppose, maybe, and just sort of to be in a bigger place, and I suppose the Irish music scene can be quite insular as well, like, and it's quite cliquey, and I suppose, and just the thought of trying to do gigs over there and to sort of see how it goes down with a kind of a more kind of bigger, wider audience, people from different places and stuff like that, would excite us, and that would be one of the kind of the main reason for going to Berlin, would be to sort of do gigs and see how it goes down, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no,
see how the sound is kind of, because like, I don't necessarily know if, I know it wouldn't, our music might necessarily have a huge audience in Ireland, but it might have a bigger audience in Europe and stuff, so.
No, absolutely. And I think one of the motivations for me to do the podcast was, or not even the motivation, is that I'm loving the conversations that I'm having with people, and I don't think it's sad in a way that I couldn't have reached out to you or any of the other people that I've reached out to and said, come over for a fucking 4-hour chat. Like.
Yeah.
But you tell them you're doing a podcast, it gives it kind of a purpose, and you kind of come out, and because all we're doing is chatting. Like, if the mic and the laptop and whatever disappeared, it's not going to take anything away from it. But.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's interesting that we don't. And that's why I admire you for that. Like that. We don't do this enough, like, you know what I mean? Actually, like, I mean, actually get a sense of where people are coming from, even people we've known for years, you know what I mean?
Ruth, my missus, said to me, I was saying about Beef is coming out tomorrow at 2 o'clock, whatever, and she was like, oh great, that'd be a good catch up for you. It's probably been a while since you had a proper chat. And it just made me think. I was like, he's going to come around tomorrow, we're going to spend a couple of hours chatting. And I tried to put a number on the amount of years it's been since we would have had this type of a chat. We've never had this.
Yeah, exactly.
Not ever, like.
No,
we know each other, what, fucking
20 odd years.
Yeah. Mad, like.
No, yeah.
And I think
we might have had little bits of conversations where you might get a sense of how you feel about something, and vice versa, but not in any substantial or meaningful way, And I don't think. There's very few people that you would have those conversations with. Is there? I mean, do you? Like,
no, I think we're representative of the vast majority of people.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
the vast majority.
Yeah.
Like I've spoken more to people in the last, let's say, month than I have in my entire life.
Yeah.
without a fucking shadow of a doubt.
Yeah.
Like, and
That's
by no small margin, like.
yeah.
And the name of this podcast is Off the Lead, or the name as it stands, I suppose, is Off the Lead. And the kind of the subtext is encouraging conversations.
Okay.
The idea being that they're conversations that will encourage people in whatever form that is, just to maybe think about different things, but also to actually literally encourage people to have, conversations.
Yeah.
And I couldn't recommend doing your own podcast about music or fucking film or
Yeah.
even just exactly a carbon copy of this, because this, I suppose, is the kind of Joe Rogan template,
Yeah.
just a long form conversation.
Yeah.
And I think it's fucking massively beneficial to just have these conversations. Forget about publishing them or
Yeah,
anything
yeah.
like. But what brought me onto the publishing end of things was, what brought me down this road was, if I was to just put it up on my, let's say, personal Facebook, I would find that scarier than uploading it to YouTube to the entire world.
Mm.
Do you know that kind of way? And
I completely understand that.
But that's bringing me back to kind of the small town, big town kind
Yeah.
of mentality. No fear, fucking, like,
Yeah.
put it this way, I get up on stage and do a speech in front of 1 million people.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I get up and do a speech in front of 100 people in
That's
Navan.
that is so interesting, because that's exactly the same experience I have with music. I much prefer doing gigs where I know nobody in the audience. Absolutely. But the most enjoyable gigs I've done have been in places where I don't know anybody in the audience, because it completely changes. I don't know what it does to you, but it completely changes the dynamic. For me, like, it's the same. I suppose it's the same thing. Can you understand why do you think that is? Or
I don't know, but
yeah.
you're after reminding me of something that I only read recently that just fucking blew the top off my head. It was again loosely related to personality, but I think the theory is called the looking glass self.
Okay.
The idea being that you now in this moment are the you that you are in front of me.
Mm.
You're not you. So you're acting and talking based on what you think I think of you.
Yeah.
So this kind of mirror.
Absolutely. I think, yeah.
If you're in front of a crowd of strangers, you can kind of be yourself.
Yeah. That's probably, yeah, and that's a great theory. I do, yeah. Because there's no baggage or any history or any, nothing. There's nothing there. Like, they don't know you. Like, and you don't know them. Like,
yeah.
Yeah. I think that's. And
I think, like, let's say, just in your circumstance of writing a song, say, if you were to write a song about, fucking, I don't know, an ex-girlfriend or something, my next song is called My Fucking Bitch Ex-Wife, whatever. If you have people in the audience that kind of know you, it's like, oh shit, but if it's a crowd full of strangers,
yeah, exactly, yeah.
Be yourself.
I suppose that's that, yeah, it's kind of to do with anonymity or something. Like, I'm kind of looking forward to that element of Berlin as well, where you're anonymous. You know what I mean, in a way.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, I suppose it kind of ties it in some way, I think.
But it is interesting though, isn't it, that you can't be yourself in front of people that you kind of know, and it's not even like it'd be probably harder for you to play a gig, or let's say for me to do a speech or whatever the equivalent is. It'd be harder for me to do it in Navan knowing that I didn't know anyone in the crowd.
Yeah.
It's just the fact that half a dozen of them probably know you, or someone that I know, and kind of get back to you. It's a weird.
It's all those little histories and all those little connections kind of start to play on your mind or something, or take your focus from what it is you're doing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Like, I suppose to be brutally out, like, I'd be thinking if I was gigging in front of people I know, like, are they comparing this to what I did before, or basically just like, do they think this is any good? And I don't know why you don't have those concerns when you're playing to strangers. I don't know. It's weird. I don't know. It's
from a personality perspective. What we're talking about is neuroticism. How in your own head you are, and typically women tend to be more. I was about to say more neurotic. Would score higher on neuroticism, let's say, than men. And I wonder, is that why there is a lot less female singers than there are male singers.
Yeah.
This idea that it's harder for them to put themselves out there, and with that, like I think creative people in general, is it fair to say that they're typically men, more so than
Yeah.
anything really?
I think that's just a I think it's just like the same in any industry. I don't know about that. I would hasten to guess that it's just like a fallout from a patriarchal society,
I suppose.
like
Yeah,
the
yeah.
same way it is in academia where there's more men. I just don't think the books are balanced yet. I don't believe that men are more creative than women, not by any stretch of the
No,
imagination.
but I wouldn't say that they are. But I think it's kind of well proven that they're more. Again, I don't want to say more neurotic because that sounds like
Yeah.
a pejorative, but they would score higher in neuroticism. So they mightn't be any less creative than men, but they're just less inclined to.
Maybe so. I was right. Yeah, or not allowed the opportunities to. Like I was.
Oh, of course,
I was reading an
definitely.
article, a great article actually. Another journalist, Sinead Gleeson. I didn't actually finish it, but she was writing about her auntie who was diagnosed with dementia, and she was talking about the sort of it's a great article about how it how it was working, like how it was manifesting itself as it got worse, and as her dementia degenerated, and they would have been very close. It was her auntie, and I suppose it was the typical Irish auntie that wasn't married and had a very close relationship with the nieces and nephews, whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
But I think she was describing the aunties was the oldest member of that family, and then when the parent, I think her mother died at 11 years of age, she was forced into the mother role.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? To care for all her younger siblings. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, of course.
And it just kind of highlights what's expected of women in that scenario. You know what I mean? So, like, if let's say she was a very creative person and could have become a poet or a whatever,
Yeah.
or sort of worked on her creativity.
Yeah, good luck with that.
Good luck with
Looking
that.
after
You've got to
your
fucking,
family.
you know what I mean? And that I think women are. It's changing now. I think it's changing now for the better. Like those things aren't necessarily expected of women, or shouldn't be. You know what I mean? Just you're the girl, so you're the oldest girl. It's up to you to be a carer and to forgo that side of yourself. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But I mean, it's so recent because my dad would have bucked that trend.
Yeah.
Like my mum was out working and my dad was the house husband
Yeah.
essentially.
Yeah.
But I mean, to say, fuck, my bad.
No worries.
Yeah, he would have booked that trend, but I mean, fuck me, that was massive, like.
Yeah.
And that was only yesterday.
Yeah, for him to take on that role. Is that what you mean? Yeah, yeah.
He would have been older than most dads, let's say, of our
yes.
age.
Yeah.
So he would have been old school, and the idea of him staying at home was just fucking preposterous. Really,
exactly.
Fucking preposterous.
Yeah. Yeah.
Regardless,
that's fantastic though.
Regardless that my mum earned way more.
Yeah.
That's obviously why. Like, if he earned more, she would have fucking stayed at home, and vice versa, obviously. But I think that pressure is kind of still there and will be for a long time.
Yeah.
Like when did women even get to fucking vote? Like,
Yeah,
again,
exactly.
it was only yesterday.
Yeah, yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And it's all that stuff is interesting, and what it's going to do to masculinity and all that. Like, it's in such an early stage. How it's going to affect, well, obviously femininity, but also masculinity as the books are balanced, as the genders become more balanced. You know what I mean? It's just interesting how it's going to play out. You know what I mean?
I haven't heard any reasonable talk about it though. Any talk I've heard has been, tear the patriarchy down and kind of real right wing feminism and like the left gone fucking mad. This idea of toxic masculinity and if if a guy and a girl get drunk and have sex and they regret it the next day, that makes the fucking guy the rapist basically.
I think it's kind of similar to what we were talking about with the sort of the lefties shouting down and not. There's very little room for a balanced debate on all that, like toxic masculinity and all that. Yeah, like that's I think that's kind of social media. It's kind of a nature of the sort of way things are going, like in terms of like just people shouting each other down and not having a balanced debate about something, and how it might how it might change or whatever, you know.
Yeah, because it's super interesting. Like, it's really interesting to think that, you know, to just be reminded that it only happened fucking yesterday, that women got the fucking vote, never mind anything else.
Yeah.
And you know, the pros and cons of women entering politics, because politics kind of runs our society, you know, right or wrong, and women haven't had any part in that forever, up until, you know, what, the last couple of decades or so, and we don't know what the fallout of that is going to be, good or bad. And the only people, or the only time I at least hear of being discussed is, you know, radically. You know, whether it's fucking men who think fucking women should be at home, or women who think that, you know, women are the best thing ever, or whatever.
That's the nature of the news as well, is that, like, we only want to pick out the sensational stuff, you know, as opposed to, you know, like, what do you think of gender quotas? What do you think of that?
Preposterous, really. I think.
You think so?
I think so. Yeah. And I think a lot of work has been done. My understanding of it, a lot of work has been done in, was it Sweden, where they've, one of the Scandinavian countries, whereby they've done everything in their power to level the kind of the playing field. And what they've done is they've maximised the differences.
Okay.
So
explain that. Sorry.
How have they? I'm struggling to think how exactly they've levelled the playing field, but
in terms of the numbers of, let's say, women entering politics or something. Or let's say engineering. Maybe they've. I don't know if they've lowered the points for women to get engineering courses. Or something to that effect. But my understanding is that they've done everything in their power to level out the playing field. But what they've done is they've exaggerated the differences. So in that same country, it's now, instead of it being 70% male engineers, 30% women, it's fucking 95. All right.
And I don't understand why that's.
Okay, there's been a backlash against it. Is it?
It's not that there's been a backlash, but it's just that they've, in an effort to level things up, they've exaggerated.
Okay,
now,
right.
I don't know. I don't know what the reason behind that is, and I don't know if
That's
anyone has figured
I'd like to read
it out.
Up on that,
but I think that there are, and again, getting back to the kind of the fundamentals of personality. Men would tip, as I said, women tend to be higher in neuroticism. Men tend to be, they might be higher in conscientiousness, or probably higher in conscientiousness, orderliness, which makes them good engineers. And these are fundamental differences between men and women, and it's why, biologically speaking, women tend to prefer certain roles and men tend to prefer certain other roles. So the idea that you would say it has to be 50% women and it has to be 50% men.
I completely agree with you. To ignore what we're traditionally better at is stupid. Like, you know what I mean?
100%.
So but at the same, I wouldn't like to think just because you could be a woman and be extremely mathematically inclined or something, which is, you know, traditionally something that we don't associate. But I think you need to have the opportunity to get to the same level as a man if you're that way inclined. Do you know what I mean? So
I think that the opportunity is there, but I think the problem is that if, for example, a woman is, you know, super great at maths or whatever, and goes down that route, she'll find herself in a boys' club, essentially.
Absolutely.
And that can be problematic. But then again, you could say the same for, you know, men who like cooking. They're going to walk into a fucking women's club, and it's kind of it's
cooking
okay.
is an interesting one, though. You know, the way we associate our mammies with cooking, but then most of the top chefs are all men. Like, you know what I mean? That's something that always confuses me. You know, just being a chef, it's just one of those ones where you associate it as a female. You know, traditionally it's such a female thing, and I suppose, you know, the traditional Italian mama and all that. But then most of the top chefs are all men. You know, it's funny.
That is.
But I know what you're getting at, though. You know what I mean?
But again, conversations like this, this is a kind of a reasonable conversation. Like, you're not a big massive sexist, and I'm not a big massive sexist, but we're interested in, you know, discussing the pros and cons, and we're not, like, I'm not terrified of kind of saying the wrong thing and being accused of being a sexist, because I know I'm not a sexist, and I don't give a fuck what anyone thinks. But the thing about us and what separates us from most people is we have a lot more autonomy than most people. So I can say something that might be misstrued or construed as being either sexist or racist or homophobic or whatever it is, and maybe I get a load of shitty comments online or something. Who cares? But if you work for fucking AIB or you work for a corporation, you're kind of accountable for what you kind of say and what's what's recorded or whatever else, and
you can have no job then.
Absolutely, and it has happened. Numerous occasions. People they put up something on Facebook and they get sacked the next day. Like.
Yeah, well, I haven't. Your man John Ronson. That fella.
The name's familiar.
Yeah, like he wrote the Psychopath Test and The Man Who Stared at Goats and.
Oh yeah, he was on Rogan not so long ago.
Yeah, he was. Yeah. I like him a lot, and but that one he was talking about, the woman that put up she put a tweet up like saying, "I'm going to Africa for work. I hope I
don't get AIDS or something."
Now, okay, I just find it like I suppose John Ronson is sort of his whole thing is about public shaming and the sort of the online abuse that someone like that can receive for what's obviously it's a misguided thing to say. It's it's probably a joke that just went tits up, like, you know what I mean?
Just a dark sense of humour.
Yeah, exactly. And I know that I've said things to you worse than that, and and vice versa. You know what I mean? And like just the thoughts that, like, okay, I know I wouldn't be stupid enough to put that in writing and put it up for everybody's consumption online, but she landed touchdown in South Africa and she's fired, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, literally before she hit the ground, she was technically sacked, like.
Yeah. So I don't know, like. Yeah, it's is that a good? What were you going to say? Sorry.
No. I was just going to say, like, it's come up actually when I've asked a couple of people to come on and do this, and the fear that people have of maybe saying the wrong thing or being taken up the wrong way.
There's a constant edit going on in people's head, I think.
Yeah, like people are. Like the self-censorship that I've noticed, and that I obviously wouldn't have noticed until I started asking people to come and to record or whatever. And a friend of mine is, just to keep it as vague as I can, a friend of mine is a psychologist, and he was afraid of, essentially, he was basically afraid of being recorded on air and being published, because of the repercussions that would have with his job, like.
Yeah.
Now he's not saying anything. It's not that he was afraid that he'd lose his mind and say something that he didn't think.
Yeah.
He was genuinely afraid of saying something that he thought that there would be repercussions of down the line, like.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's warranted, or I don't know if he's completely mad in thinking that, or if it's justified. But it's definitely a recurring theme.
Yeah.
And people have said to me, "Oh, listen, I'll come out and do a podcast with you in the morning, but I don't want going online."
Yeah.
And it's just this inherent fear that it'll come back to bite them in the ass.
Yeah.
And I think that's mainly guided by their lack of independence, their lack of autonomy.
Yeah.
They're kind of
they're
plugged into the matrix and don't want to be unplugged.
Yeah. It's interesting, all that. The fear of being exposed for something, or that sort of, it's hard to get your head around. Can you tell me about your theory of that we're all being domesticated, or what's?
It started out. I started noticing it in other people, but then I realised that I was as much domesticated as the next person, really, and our entire conversation about the music that gets played. It's a domesticated person. It's practically a fully domesticated person that buys into that.
Yeah.
Literally and metaphorically. Like.
Yeah.
And I think more and more, if people go around with whether it's a Nike T-shirt or they buy into what's been fucking shoved down their throat.
Yeah.
Like.
So like consumerism, you mean? Is it?
Consumerism is a big part of it. Lack of independent thought is another massive aspect of it. Like, if you, again, like I mentioned earlier, if you were to ask people on the street, where are they on the political spectrum, I reckon they wouldn't know what you're fucking talking about. If you were to kind of do a similar poll and ask people for an independent thought, first thing you're going to get asked is like, what do you mean? It's like, well, do you have like an opinion on anything, that's actually your own? That you didn't, that you're not going to regurgitate from something that you heard in the radio. And again, for the overwhelming majority of people,
Yeah.
I don't think they have one.
Yeah.
And I think that's fucking sad.
Yeah.
And I think the kind of smartphone culture that we have, the big problem I see with that is, or the reason why I think people are constantly on their phones is because they're, without their phone, they'd end up having to fucking, not think about themselves, but think to themselves.
Well, every idle moment is not spent in reflection. It's spent sort of feeding it with whatever's on the screen.
Whatever it is.
Yeah.
It could be anything. And for me, it could be, personality. It doesn't have to be trivial. It could be a really deep and meaningful thing that you're fucking constantly reading on your phone, but it's a distraction away from your from yourself.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think you desperately need that. Like, and I think people are losing their identity, losing their kind of sense of self, and I think that's the main driving force behind a lot of what's terrible in the world.
Yeah.
Whether it's fucking depression or rampant consumerism or pick your poison.
Yeah.
So the idea of this podcast and YouTube channel or whatever it's going to kind of evolve into is just it's a pushback against that, and it's an alternative.
Yeah.
Because I still am to a certain degree domesticated, say, but not nearly to the extent that I would have been. Like, I wouldn't dream of going into a shop now and buying an €80 T-shirt. Like,
yeah.
Fucking madness. Like.
It's interesting. I'm only halfway through this book by a fellow called he's got a triple name. Yuval is the first name and Harari is the last name.
He wrote 'Sapiens.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Have you read that?
No, I haven't actually.
So, well, he talks about the cognitive revolution, and basically he's talking about why sapiens became the dominant creature or species on Earth and stuff, and but he basically he's a huge problem with the agricultural revolution in terms of how it domesticated people, really, and so he thinks we were better off when we were hunter-gatherers, you know what I mean, living in smaller tribes that our diet was more varied, that we had more stimulation, and then when we domesticated animals and started to live in within larger groups, you know what I mean, that he thinks that we were worse off as a result. It's interesting in terms of how it correlates with, I suppose, the latest stage, what you're talking about, of that domestication. You know what I mean? There could be a correlation there somewhere. You know what I mean?
Are you familiar with Dunbar's number?
No.
Dunbar's number is the amount of. If you look at Homo sapiens kind of predecessors, like you had Neanderthals and Homo erectus and fucking whatever else, all the way back to kind of primordial chimps. If you line up their brain sizes or their skulls.
Sorry, I've heard something about this. Yeah.
So the bigger the brain, you could basically tell the size of the group that particular primate lived in by the size of its brain. So the bigger the brain it had, the bigger its social group. The bigger the community, like the hunter-gatherer kind of community that your mom who wrote *Sapiens* was on.
Yeah.
But what Dunbar's number is, I think it could be 400.
Okay.
But 400, or maybe even less. It's a couple of hundred anyway, low hundreds. That's the maximum amount of people that you can have relationships with kind of throughout your life.
Yes, yeah, I've heard something about this, yeah.
So in order for you to have any kind of functioning relationship with everybody in your group can't be any more than, let's say, 300 or 400.
Yeah.
We obviously live in cities of fucking
exactly, yeah. Well, there you go. That's what I suppose that's what he's arguing about, that we aren't better. Although, so it's very interesting, some of the stuff that he's talking about. The fact that as sapiens, or as Homo sapiens, that our ability to create fictions is what allowed us to cooperate on massive level. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, like, I suppose imagination. There's a God, and if you don't do what he's telling you to do, or if he's telling you to do, then you're in trouble. That kind of way. Like, So people could then operate on much larger levels because because they believe in something that can't be proven. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's all that stuff is just so interesting, and
it's just the ability to abstract it
Yeah,
as well,
yeah.
like, and
Yeah.
the concept of kind of tomorrow, like that
Y-
was revolutionary
Yeah.
over the millions of years of our evolution.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
An interesting one I heard on that recently was that we made a bit of a leap, I suppose, when we emigrated north and started hunting mammoths.
Mm.
And the difference between hunting a mammoth and something else was that when you killed a mammoth, you had way more food than you could consume, and you couldn't keep it, say,
Yeah.
for long periods. So you started to kind of share it. The idea being, the primitive thought process was, if I give that guy over there some now,
Yeah.
when I don't have any, maybe he'll give it to me.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
just that was a big massive leap
Yeah,
in,
yeah.
in our kind of in our growth. And then the idea, like, we would have the idea of sacrifice, so the idea of giving up something now for a return at a
Yeah.
later stage, that was another kind of massive leap in our cognition.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And all these little different things you know, enabled us to kind of be the technological species that we are now. But with that guy, he wouldn't be, I would imagine he would have a relatively small following, say, on Twitter, or his books
don't
get
know.
read. Like,
Yeah.
he's not, he's not fucking Mariah Carey or,
Yeah.
insert massive popular person.
Mm.
And I think there's an onus on people like us, say, who do have the interest and the kind of fucking God-given intelligence, for want of a better term, to understand those things and to have conversations about
Yeah.
it, to allow it to be more accessible to a wider audience. Do you know that kind of way?
Yeah.
And again, that's another thing that I found about having conversations with people. Like, I'm not going to be an expert in personality, but I love listening to Jordan Peterson talk about it, and I am getting better.
Yeah.
But the way I talk about it is a lot more accessible for somebody else.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Who would listen to Jordan Peterson and go, what the fuck? That's a lot of fucking,
yeah.
academic nonsense.
Yeah, like I had to listen to some of the Sam Harris, was brilliant, but there was one I clicked onto, and it's just some of which it was who, I can't even remember who he was talking to, but it was all like theoretical stuff that was just going over my head.
Very
you know what I mean?
heavy
And
stuff. Some of it's
you nearly
very
have to be
heavy.
going back and kind of listen to it again a few times for me
Yeah.
to click with me. You know, that kind of way.
No, 100%.
Yeah, yeah.
100%.
So, yeah. But then I kind of liked what sound like he'd say. Your man would. I can't even remember who he was interviewing, but he'd say something, and I think Sam Harris would go, "Well, hold on a second. Can you just go in? Can you go backtrack a bit there? Because we didn't get you. I don't understand." Or not that he probably understood, but he realizes his
understands
audience
don't.
doesn't. And I kind of yeah, that stuff is great. And I suppose the likes of the podcasts and stuff are going to make it more accessible. That's what's going to be at the forefront of making things more. Palatable to a larger audience. You know,
No, I think so. And
as it's not in stuffy leather-bound books. It's vibrant. It's it's alive. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And again, your man Jordan Peterson, he would be, again, educated to an expert level on the likes of Jung and Nietzsche and Dostoevsky, or what's your man's name? Fucking, I can't think, but all the kind of the great literary greats and the
Philosophers,
genius philosophers
Yeah.
Of our time, and he's talking about them in a way more dumbed down version than they spoke themselves. Do you know that kind of way? And
Yeah.
his dumbed down version is perfect for me,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
my dumbed down version is
Yeah,
perfect for the next
Yeah,
fella.
exactly. Yeah.
And I think, as you say, like, podcasts are they're just a fantastic way of giving people access to something that would have been way out of reach to them.
unattainable. Yeah.
Like, put it this way, I'm not going to pick up a book Jung wrote and get my head around the fucking half.
Yeah.
It's not in the fucking cards.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I watch a YouTube video about him
Exactly.
talking about
Yeah, yeah.
how Jung influenced him
Yeah.
and his teachings, and hopefully if I can kind of do that to a
Yeah.
wider
And
audience again.
all that kind of will give you hope. You know what I mean? Because it's easy to despair a lot about the modern world and where things are going, but it's that kind of stuff would give you hope. Like, you know what I mean? That there
No,
is
absolutely,
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
And I think we haven't, like we were saying earlier about how women got the vote 5 minutes ago. The internet's only been here 5 minutes.
Yeah.
It really has. Like, I mean, YouTube was, or the internet was porn for a long time, and then YouTube came along, and it was cat videos for a long time, and now it's something entirely different. Like you look at the likes of Joe Rogan, I suppose is the classic example. He's getting 100 million downloads a month.
Yeah.
And there's him and his kind of assistant Jamie or whatever you want to call him, and that's it. Like.
Yeah.
And we haven't. Like he's just the first. Like I mean, if you call me the second, and there's another million of me out there.
Yeah.
Give it another 10 or 20 years.
Yeah.
And again, there's no need for the hand of corporations to kind of guide you.
Yeah. Eventually, everyone's just having these conversations that are not just fucking surface stuff. People are. As it feeds down, I suppose people are actually then just on a normal level having more profound conversations, whatever.
But the amount that I'm having better conversations since I started listening to podcasts, never mind about recording them.
Yeah.
Because when I meet somebody and they, any crack, and you get the fucking mindless chit chat out of the way, I'm much more inclined to go, you never guess what, I was listening to this thing the other day, and it happened to be with the fucking brain size of monkeys or whatever, our predecessors or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Or it could be, pick your poison, like whatever your interests are. Mine might be psychology or evolutionary psychology. But I mean, if it's art or music or literature or whatever it is, and to hear people talking about it in terms that you can fucking understand, and that doesn't sound kind of stuffy or academic.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I think it's the golden age of disseminating.
Yeah, there you go. That's it.
Not music, information. Full stop. Like.
Yeah.
And in your circle of friends, like, do you find that more people are listening to podcasts in general, or like I asked you, because when I invited you here, I said something to the tune of, I've started up this podcast, don't know if you ever heard of such a thing, blah blah blah. And your reply was that you're a bit of a fucking podcast fiend.
Yeah.
Do you see yourself as an outlier in that? Are you a one in a million kind of thing, or is everybody around you all fucking furious?
I'd say I listen to more than most people. I can't say that I have too many conversations with people that listen to podcasts. Really, like what I mean? Not yet. I think people listen to a lot of like stuff that they're interested in, like sport podcasts maybe, and I have spoken to people about Song Explode or whatever. Yeah. But I don't know how much people are kind of. Is it sort of like taking what they're? Well, for me, podcasts are kind of a way of exposing myself to stuff that I wouldn't necessarily be very interested in. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's whereas I think most people are just taking what they're already interested in and finding a podcast about that. You know what I mean? So, you know what I mean? That's fine. That's basically like switching a channel. You know what I mean? You know what I mean?
Yeah. 100%.
Whereas, hopefully what I like about them is that you can. Well, I loved the fact that you could tell me ones that you listen to. You know what I mean? And I'm listening to Sam Harris, who I've never heard of before.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I'm being exposed to stuff that I wouldn't be exposed to before. You know what I mean? So that's what I find exciting about it. I don't want to just use podcasts or to see them as sort of a way to further go down a sort of a tunnel vision that you are in terms of your interests. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Hopefully, it can open up more interest to you. Like, you know what I mean?
No, absolutely. And again, my whole shtick on this domesticated human idea of mine is that we're constantly being funneled down these tracks. So if it's whether it's fucking Man United or a particular style of clothes or a particular type of music or whatever it is, people are just so, I suppose, one-dimensional.
Yeah.
In that kind of way. There's no kind of broader viewpoint. They're in their little echo chambers, and those echo chambers are getting kind of smaller and smaller and smaller all the time. And as you so rightly put, if you're interested in music and all you do is look for other music podcasts, it's a great analogy actually. You're just changing the channel. It's different, but it's the same fucking thing. Like.
Yeah.
And what I love about the likes of Joe Rogan is, it's not it's not a. Like if somebody was to ask you, what's the Joe Rogan podcast about? Yeah,
exactly. There's no answer. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, and he brings people on. I don't listen to it all the time. I dip in and out of it.
Yeah, of course.
But he brings people on that might necessarily be agreeable to his audience. You know what I mean? And I kind of like that. Like obviously, what do you call it? Infowars? That guy.
Alex Jones.
Alex Jones, or I think he had that Ted Nugent. You know him, that musician? He's like really right wing fucking, and he's big into own your own guns. Fucking.
Okay, right.
He had him on. You know, like I like that. Like that, it's not just kind of people who you'd imagine kind of on it.
Yeah,
Like I suppose you'd expect my man there, John Ronson. You expect him to be on it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
So you're getting other perspectives. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which is kind of. It's not the way most echo chambers are, like, you know what I mean, in terms of it's just people giving you the stuff that you appreciate, you know what I mean? It's stuff like that you might find abhorrent, you know what I mean?
Did you listen to, are you familiar with Ben Shapiro at all?
Name is familiar, yeah.
He's on Joe Rogan. It's one well worth looking up, and he'd be a conservative, but he's our age, which is rare in itself. You find a kind of a young, well-spoken, right-wing or right-leaning person, like, and would be very conservative and would be proud of such, and like the way you would be proud of being liberal, he's equally as proud of being conservative. Yeah. And I didn't disagree with one thing the man said. Not a fucking single thing. Literally, and he was chatting for like 3 or 4 hours. Couldn't disagree with a single thing the man said. Okay. But without being exposed to that, it's easy to think that
write him off or something.
Well, pretty much, like, you know,
if you hear the stats about him, then you go, oh, he's not for me.
He's a Ben Shapiro conservative commentator. Next.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? But when you're kind of, and it's not until you're exposed to these ideas that you can judge for yourself whether or not you think there's any kind of merit to them. Like.
Ben Shapiro. Okay, I must have listened to him.
But even Ruth will ask me now when we go in from here, you know, how'd you get on? I had a great chat. What'd you talk about? Fuck. And it's the same with everyone. Like, and I couldn't tell you what I fucking spoke to. Like, Pato was out here a week or so ago. We did 4 hours until he had to go to a fucking dentist appointment.
Right. Yeah.
And again, I couldn't tell you what we fucking spoke about.
Like. Yeah.
And I found that was the second one that Pato did. I've had Dave Webster. He's done 3 or 4 at this stage. Paul's just done the one. I've mostly done one-offs, but I often find that the second time someone comes back, it's way better. Yeah, in that kind of way, because you familiarise yourself with the format. You're not maybe as kind of nervous or as jittery or whatever it is. And
I'm up for doing it again.
Fucking can't wait. Yeah. Plus, another good thing about it is, and again, this is the whole point of it is, hopefully you leave here now and kind of think about the things that we thought about.
So, for sure. I know I will, yeah.
And the next podcast that we do, we mightn't stray from any of the topics that we covered here today, but we'll just have time to
ruminate on them.
Yeah, of course.
On them more, yeah. Absolutely, yeah. For sure.
And again, I think that gives you fuel to have better conversations with, you know, your missus or your mate down the road or fucking, you know.
Exactly,
whoever it is, like.
For sure.
But definitely the fucking the golden age of the internet, I think, and I think we're in a really good position as well, because I think we're the last generation that grew up without the internet. Yeah. Because like I see Fionn, it's fucking scary. Like Fionn's 3 years of age now. He'll pick up the tab, press the kind of the home button, swipe the screen, go into files, find music, and then scroll down through fucking Peppa Pig and fucking whatever else he's watching.
What he wants,
and he'll go into an episode and he'll go, oh no, I thought that was something else. He'll back up out of it, and it's fucking scary. Like I'm gonna have to put and I should probably have them on it already, parental controls.
Yeah, okay.
Because he can go into YouTube and start playing stuff. Like.
That's mad. 3 years
At 3 years of age. Like.
What was I doing when I was 3 years?
You weren't on the internet for fucking start. I was eating stones. Picking your nose. It's mad. And another thing that I've been put onto, again, not to fucking harp on about him too much, your man Jordan Peterson.
I have to check this guy out,
fucking fascinating guy. I reckon he'd be down your street as well, because he wouldn't be for everyone, but I reckon there'd be something there for you. He's a deeply religious person, and he actually has a series that I'm just after finishing called the biblical significance of the psychological significance of the biblical stories, which is fucking amazing.
Wow.
Absolutely blew me away. And you know me, fucking atheist. I was fucking whatever age, but he would consider himself a deeply, deeply religious man.
Yeah.
And whereas I would have said before that, Christianity is such a load of fucking bollocks,
Yeah.
you can see it's plagiarized from this, that, and the
Yeah.
other, and all these religions, they all have
Yeah.
the same fucking thing, and they're all bollocks. But the reason they all have the same thing is because there are kind of fundamental truths in there
to
that
them,
we
absolutely.
found out along
Yeah,
the
yeah.
way. And a point that he stressed once was that don't think of like the Mesopotamians, which were, how many fucking tens of thousands of years ago, as being stupid or primitive people.
Yeah.
Far fucking from it, like.
Yeah.
And I look at Fionn when, let's say he was 2, say, I heard Peterson say primitive people, weren't stupid. And I look at Fionn now at 2, or Fionn then at 2, and even now at 3, he's not that much different than he would have been if he was born 100,000 years ago. Do you know that kind of way?
Yeah, yeah.
And he's only going to be as intelligent not intelligent, but he's only going to be as well educated as what he's exposed to.
Yeah.
So that there was no limiting factor on human beings, thousands and thousands of years ago. Maybe millions, obviously, before we were Homo sapiens, like.
Yeah.
But it's just fucking mind-bogglingly interesting.
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's so much of this stuff that's out there that.
Yeah, well, your man Harari's going on. It was just kind of lit up a light bulb for me, talking about polytheism and monotheism, and basically how the major monotheistic religions like Christianity and Islam became so dominant,
the kind of behemoths.
Yeah, but like basically they both came from polytheistic religions, really. You know what I mean?
Of course.
Yeah, and just stuff that I suppose if I had it. Just stuff when you see it written down, you go, wow, okay, yeah. And then the fact that basically, like, monotheistic religions, they are actually polytheistic. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just all the history of all that stuff is just so fascinating. He's talking about dualism and
dualism. That's familiar, but I couldn't tell you what it is.
The fact that there's a force of evil and there's a fact that there's a force of good. You know what I mean?
The yin and the yang.
Yeah, yeah. But then as Christians believe, that there's an omnipotent God, but then they also believe in the devil. You know what I mean? And it's just it's just basically highlighting the contradictions that are in so many religions. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I'd be very interested to read that. What did you call it?
It's Jordan Peterson is his name.
Yeah.
And the series it's on. Do you use Stitcher for your podcasts?
No.
Stitcher's the app that I use. I find it good. What do you use as a matter of interest?
I don't. I'm kind of just on the websites primarily, and then I use there's one I use for I can't remember what the name of it is. Podcast Republic? I don't know. Can't remember.
Well, Stitcher on you. I highly recommend you download Stitcher because you can have that's where I listen to all my podcasts.
Yeah,
is through Stitcher. But yeah, Jordan Peterson has like a Stitcher account, say that he uploads a lot of the recordings from his lectures and that. But yeah, it's the psychological significance of the biblical stories.
Okay, yeah.
It is fucking unbelievable.
Yeah.
It really is. And it'd be talking about let's say Noah and the Ark, but it'll go into flood myths generally because apparently all cultures have had flood myths, like, and the idea being that you've done something bad, God sends a fucking flood to fucking reset everything. But he's a really interesting view on the kind of the yin and the yang, and good and bad, and heaven and hell.
Yeah.
And one of the things that he would say quite often is, in order to be the kind of the best person you can be and have a really fulfilling life, you need two things. You need a heaven to strive for and a hell to avoid. Which might sound kind of like he's kind of waxing lyrical and a bit philosophical, but he goes into the detail of the kind of scientific fucking grounding behind it. So the example he gives is this guy called Max Planck or Yank Planck, I think is his name.
What a name.
Yeah, but he discovered the play circuit in rats in their brains and won a Nobel Prize for it. And he also discovered that rats laugh when they're tickled, ultrasonically.
Okay.
So what they use, what the lab people will use, is the eraser on the end of a pencil to tickle the belly of the rat, because apparently the texture is the same to the mother's tongue.
Yeah.
But what this guy discovered was they have that they play. It was known that mammals play generally, but he actually identified the circuit in the brain that was the play
That
circuit.
proved it, yeah.
But the experiment that he conducted was so fucking cool. So you get a rat, a lab rat, you starve a lab rat down to, you know, whatever percentage of its body weight that constitutes it being fucking starving, basically. And you let it know that there's food down this tunnel, and you tie a little spring to its tail, and you can gauge how motivated the rat is to get the food by how hard he pulls the tail.
Yes, okay.
So he has a heaven to strive for.
Yeah.
Okay? But the idea is that if you waft in cat odor,
Yeah.
it'll pull like fuck to get the food because it's starving, but also to
get away from the
oncoming predator.
Yeah, yeah.
The idea being that he's starving, right? So he is maximally motivated to get food. He couldn't be any more motivated. He's maxed out his motivation to get the food. So that's there. But you waft in that cat odor, and that's a separate circuitry.
Yeah.
So you'll max out that separate circuitry. So you can literally double your, like literally, clinically speaking, double your motivation to do something if you have a heaven to strive for and a hell to avoid.
That's amazing. Yeah.
That's fucking fascinating stuff. Like, if that's piqued your interest, fall in love with Jordan Peterson.
I wonder then if you wafted the cat smell from the same places where the food is coming, what would that do?
You just the cat. Rat just explode or something.
Completely mind blown.
But yeah, it's mad because just on that whole rat thing, and I've often wondered why psychologists kind of study rats and different things, like, you know, how similar could a fucking rat be to a human, like, and I don't know if we've since discovered the kind of play circuitry in humans, but here's one for you on morality. Like, religions that tell you that, you know, you have to be Christian in order to be fucking moral, and Christianity came up with morality and blah blah blah. That people would argue that it's inherent in our nature and we wouldn't have gotten to where we are without it, and blah blah blah. But with rats play and they wrestle, so they pin each other. But if you get two rats and one of them is, let's say, 10% bigger than the other, that means that rat is capable of pinning the other rat, you know, at its leisure. Just it'll always win. 10% have a 10% weight difference. It's like me wrestling a 2-year-old. There's no competition. Complete mismatch. And in nature, it's always, I think, the smaller rat that looks to play with the bigger rat. So a smaller rat will come over and start annoying you until it starts playing with you, basically. But if that rat is 10% bigger, and it doesn't let the small rat win at least 30% of the time,
right,
that rat won't invite it to play anymore.
Okay.
So there's an inherent element of kind of fairness there.
Okay, yeah.
And these are the type of things that he kind of talks about.
This is in the same book, yeah?
Pretty much, yeah.
Wow, okay. Sorry, it's a podcast series as opposed to a book, or is it?
Well, no, the
an audio book.
That series is actually a talk that he gave. So he rented out a theatre for 12 nights and sold tickets to it.
Yeah.
But the audio of it was recorded and it's all available.
That sounds cool.
His lecture series, he's a professor in the University of Toronto and was a professor in Harvard for I think 5 years as well. All his lectures are online, and he thinks that the universities are dying, if not dead already, and that the future of education is by basically uploading lectures online, giving them out free to people, which is really fascinating. And he got himself into a bit of hot water over the whole gender pronouns thing, because in Canada they put forward this bill, I think it was C-16, which was going to make not using these made-up gender pronouns a crime.
Yeah.
Now that's since passed, but he basically stood up and said, pass your law all you want, I'm not going to use your compelled speech. Fucking forget about it. So it was a bit of a storm in a teacup, but it got him, it essentially made him famous to a certain degree. But he's since made a load of kind of YouTube videos about that and about everything else, and now he has, you know, 250,000 subscribers on YouTube, earning 60 grand a month from Patreon. And his view on the money from Patreon is he doesn't need it, so he's just going to plough it into spreading science, basically. He's a scientist, number one, and then I suppose a scientist and an educator, number one. But just to hear the man speak, like, like he makes the point, and it's so fucking so trivial and obvious when you hear someone say it. He said, right now we have, you know, a couple of hundred or a couple of thousand top grade universities worldwide, and in each one of them there's a guy teaching psychology, and you know they're good and bad to varying degrees. Why not just make the fucking best lecture series on psychology and upload it and give it to everyone for free?
Yeah, yeah.
And update it whenever, you know,
There's new discoveries.
whenever there's new discoveries, update it and fucking move on, like, and do it for everything. Like, why should it only be people who can afford 200 grand a year tuition in Harvard that's getting these Harvard
Absolutely,
courses?
yeah.
Fucking record them, send them up, and let people fucking look at them for free.
Yeah.
There's an accreditation issue, but I mean, he's getting tens of millions of views on his series, and the point that he makes is that people aren't doing that for any other reason other than they want to learn.
Yeah.
So, you know, fucking
More power to them. Like.
more power to them, exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
So
plow on, says you.
yeah, no, a fascinating
Yeah.
character, really fascinating character.
Cool.
And I suppose in a large part he's kind of encouraged me to do this. And he would preach is the wrong word, but he would say that in order to have a fulfilling life, you need a hell to avoid and a heaven to strive to. Now, the heaven to strive to is whatever you make it.
Yeah.
Let's say if it's for you, it might be, you know, earning enough through the sales of an album or a week that will allow you to do what you do kind of full time and maybe take a bit of pressure off. And because I'd imagine it's not an easy life.
No, not at all. Absolutely.
Not that you'd want one.
No,
know,
exactly. Yeah, exactly. And yeah, I'm probably getting a bit too comfortable here, here. So that's why I kind of want to upset the apple cart a bit more by pissing off for a while. You know what I mean?
No, absolutely. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, exactly. Because comfort, I think, can be the enemy of creativity. Maybe, you know.
I couldn't agree more. Could not agree more. And I think that's a massive problem. And again, it's another thing that actually Joe Rogan says quite a bit. We have it too fucking easy. That's what's wrong with the world.
Yeah.
People have it too fucking easy.
Yeah.
Like you look at the likes of, even in America, and the protests that they have in universities over there over, you know, how oppressed they are, and like, you're going to Yale and you're protesting about being oppressed, like it's fucking laughable.
It's complete lack of awareness of
complete lack of awareness, and we just have it too easy. It's too easy to get by.
Yeah.
Like worst case scenario, especially in Ireland, not that I'm against, you know, a social state, like, but if you don't want to work, say, you know, ultimately you'll get a roof over your head and you'll get, you know, enough money to fucking buy food or whatever else, and like there's merit to that if it's a kind of a stopgap. But when that's all your fucking life is, you're doing people a disservice.
Yeah, exactly.
You're robbing them of their lives, basically.
Yeah.
And you know, if you grow up in that and you take that as the norm, do you know, that kind of way, and like you'll have
it becomes a
generation thing.
Yeah,
like fuck me. I remember seeing it was actually Jamie Oliver. He was over in the States doing some shitty fucking cooking program.
Yeah.
But he called to this woman's house, and you know, he was going through her presses and showing her how terrible her diet was and blah blah blah, whatever else. But he said something that was very interesting, or she did. He asked her, Jesus, like everything's frozen and deep fat fried, would you not, you know, boil a pot of spuds or potatoes, whatever? And your woman was like, what do you mean, like? And she didn't know what he meant by boil a pot of potatoes.
Yeah.
Because number one, she didn't have a pot.
Yeah.
And number two, she probably didn't have anything to put the fucking pot on to cook it.
Yeah.
Because her parents didn't have a pot.
Yeah.
So like you probably know how to prepare yourself a fucking dinner.
Absolutely, yeah.
But if your parents never did,
yeah.
Where the fuck
I had this talk with somebody recently, like that. You know, obviously we have an obesity epidemic, and it's to do with lack of education, and it's you know, it's almost, I don't know what the statistics are, but it's like, I wonder, the obesity epidemic is probably more prominent amongst working class people, or so, you know, people who don't have the same education, you know what I mean? And like, just where, you know, people are just not educated or not aware enough about like how easy it is to kind of, you know, buy fresh food and cook it up. You know what I mean? As you were saying, like, and then all the packaging and everything that's kind of targeting young people and all that. You know, that stuff. It's lack of education. You know.
I see it with Fionn more so than anything, and it's fucking scary. Like the creche, because he's going into preschool now.
Yeah.
He's of that age, so in preschool you wear a uniform and you bring in a lunch, and it's like a precursor for school basically. But the rules on what you could bring in for lunch, and so no chocolate, no crisps. There's just an all-out ban on them. And I remember reading that, going, "Fucking hell, you know, that's fucking class." Like,
yeah,
you know what I
yeah.
mean? Like, I'm fundamentally opposed to banning stuff in general, but that's a ban that I can really get behind. And it wasn't until the next couple of weeks, whatever, when I'd be getting them ready for preschool in the morning, and you're kind of rushing, like, "Oh fuck, it's lunch," and I would have chucked in. This is coming from me, who's acutely aware of not feeding my child shite. I absolutely would have chucked in, you know, a bar, a bag of crisps,
to save time, like,
just to save time. Just to save time.
Yeah, and that's it. I was at that wedding in France, and went down to see the kind of the people whose wedding they've bought a place and they're going to live in France, and it's kind of rural France, and in the village, the school has got together and they've banned iPhones.
Right.
I'm not sure whether they're banned from school, or I think it could be they're banned from owning them. Like, I think it's that extreme, like, which is extreme, you know.
Yeah.
But the parents have all agreed to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I suppose, like, when they go into the city, then they feel a little, because all the city kids have them and stuff like that. But I don't know. I think when I heard it first, I was like, Jesus, that's a bit extreme. Like, but then you kind of feels like I just think it's a good idea, you know, like, just be kids, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think all that sort of stuff can kind of maybe steal your childhood from you a wee bit, you know, if you grow up too fast with all these access to all this stuff, you know what I mean? You can kind of lose your childhood or something a little bit.
It's just you're losing your ability to reflect from an earlier age.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah, we
Do you know that kind of way?
earlier, yeah.
Like, it's bad enough that we were, let's say, 20 before smartphones really fucking came on the scene.
Yeah.
At least we had up until we were 20 to think to ourselves.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But imagine being born, like, anyone born now, you're born into, like, a smartphone world. So it's like, I don't know what age kids get their fucking smartphone, but considering how Fionn can pick up my tab and just swipe around, I'm assuming it's getting earlier and earlier every year, like. So we're in danger of losing our ability to kind of think to ourselves and ruminate and whatever else. But we're privileged to have that to lose.
Yeah.
Like, what happens when you fucking never have that in the first place? Like?
Yeah.
Do you know that kind of way?
That's a good way. Yeah, we're privileged to have that to lose. Yeah.
But like, if a kid literally, because put it this way, if your 5-year-old, say, has a smartphone that, let's say, you mightn't be able to send and receive messages, but you're on the Wi-Fi and you can play your games and you can do whatever else you want to do. When are you going to find the time to sit quietly and think by yourself? Do you know that kind of way? It's not fucking happening.
No,
like, you're on your fucking phone.
Yeah.
Like, and it takes conscious effort for an adult not to be on their phone.
Yeah.
Because the way these things, and again, it gets back to the kind of the negative aspects of tech. Like, I heard another really interesting thing about, you know, if you go on to, whether it's Facebook or Twitter or LinkedIn or any of these things, when you open up the page populates, and then it might take a second or two, but a red tick will appear if you've got like a message or a notification or a new thing.
You never open it anymore without there being one of those, I think, and it's not, you know.
Well, here's an interesting one for you, and this is just it just goes to show how invasive and cynical and insidious these things have become. There's always like a split second of a delay before that populates.
Yeah, so that split second, your panic.
Yeah, that's you with your eyes open.
Yeah.
And the guy that was explaining it made an analogy to the slot machines.
Yeah.
So you pull the big lever.
Yeah.
It goes. It doesn't fucking need to go. You don't even need to pull the fucking lever. You could just press a button and go pop, and the answer will come up.
Yeah.
But there's no, and that's what people get addicted to. It's that
that's a great analogy. Yeah.
And that's literally how people are becoming addicted to their smartphones.
Yeah.
It's this it's engineered into the system.
It's something I'm very conscious of, but I'm not above it by any means. I'm the same. Like, you know, I think I got rid of the app off my phone, but then I went onto the internet and started looking it up again. You know, or even like I still love my sport and love my football and stuff, but I'm looking at fucking stuff and I just going, find myself reading shit and I'm going, wow, like what am I doing? Like, you know what I mean? Especially over the summer when there's no football on, I'm looking at fucking transfer rumours and it's just like, what am I doing, man? It's like, oh, this is never going to happen, and who cares if it does, like, or no, it doesn't. It's, it's just fucking. It's mad, but I'm guilty of it as well a lot.
But at least you're aware of it.
Yeah.
Being aware of it isn't a magic bullet to fucking cure it. And
no.
You said that you didn't think you were above it. I don't think you can be above it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Do you know that kind of way? I literally don't think
it's impossible.
Be above it. No matter how aware you are of it. Like a conversation with a good friend of mine who I would consider to be an intellectual black belt. He's just fucking the man lives in his head, and he's just an amazing guy. A guy called Chris Gleason, but he said something to me, and I couldn't fucking believe it. He tried to make the point that he wasn't influenced by advertising. And his idea being that he understood it to such a degree that it didn't influence him.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, how can you, above all people, fucking come out with a statement like that? And he was like, no, man, seriously, like, I see all these ads on telly, like, but I'm never going to buy into that stuff because I'm not into that commercial thing. I'm not into ownership, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, right, name me 3 cola brands. And he goes, Coca-Cola, Pepsi, and Dr. Pepper. Yeah. And I was like, I can't say this with certainty, but I'd imagine you name them in order of how much money they spend on advertising.
Yeah.
And that would be my point.
Yeah.
You can't be influenced by this kind of stuff.
I would agree with you there. You can't. Unless you live a hermetic life with no connection to anything, how could you not be influenced by advertising? Like?
But even that wouldn't cut it because you're not being exposed to it.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you know, kind of way, there's a difference between not being exposed to it and...
Oh, well, his claim to be able to be exposed to it and not be affected by it.
Pretty much, yeah. Well, pretty much.
Yeah.
Madness, like.
Yeah.
Fucking madness. And again, from a man who I would consider to be an intellectual black belt.
Yeah.
Madness, like. So
exactly.
there's certainly no kind of being above it, and especially when you get into insidious things like there being an intentional delay to keep you, like the minutiae that they go into, like, and that's only fucking starting too, like.
That's that stuff that's the element that terrifies me. All that stuff, you know what I mean, and what that's doing to, and all the new sort of neurotic sort of psychological illnesses that's going to create, like, you know what I mean?
Massively so, yeah.
Yeah, that stuff all is to be really feared, I think, you know.
No, massively so. And I remember reading about... Sorry.
Stuff that we can't even envisage now, like sort of psychological damage that we can't even envisage, I think, because we can't even comprehend what that's going to do. Like,
no, but put it this way, like, it's kind of taken as a given that suicide is on the upset.
Yeah.
But I don't... And like the suicide amongst, let's say, teenagers is higher than it's ever been before, and that's a terrible problem. We don't need to discuss we don't have to discuss what's problematic about that. It's kind of self-evident. But what mightn't be as self-evident is what happens when the world is being ran, like let's say in 20 or 30 years' time, what happens when the world is being ran by a generation of people who are practically all suicidal in their teens.
Yeah.
So that kind of way, like, what's the repercussions of coming through a suicidal fucking teenage period? Like, fuck no.
Yeah, exactly.
But one thing I was going to say on how the society that we live in is engineered to, get you addicted to fucking smartphones and different things. Do you ever hear any of the tricks that are used universally in supermarkets?
Yeah,
like some of them are fucking classic.
The loss leading stuff, or
well, that'd be one. That'd be a kind of a more kind of obvious one. That's a hook to get you in the door, and that's why there are laws against kind of below cost selling. Because Tesco just give their milk free to people because it gets you in the door buying the other shit. But there's the minutiae, like, so can you think of a supermarket that you walk into that has like a flappy door thing or even the electric doors that actually open as you approach them?
Yeah.
When you, especially young men like ourselves, typically if we're going in shopping, you get out of the car, you walk to the door as fast as you can, and you walk to where you want to go as fast as you can. You get all your bits and get the fuck out of there.
Yeah.
But when you walk up to that door, if you're walking at like a brisk pace, odds are you're going to have to wait for a second for that door to open.
Yeah.
That door could fucking have opened if they wanted that door. If they didn't want to break your stride,
They want to slow you down.
they literally want to break your stride to
wow.
slow you down.
Yeah.
Because and they've learned this over the years, and they've studied it to the fucking 9th degree. If they stop you, you're not going to walk as fast. The more time you spend in there, the more fucking money you leave in there.
Yeah.
What are the other ones? The tile sizes. So the actual tiles on the ground.
Yeah.
Can typically be smaller in front of high value goods. So you're walking along with your trolley going da-da-dum, 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 da-da-da-dum, da-da-da-dum, da-da-dum, and that will literally slow you down as you walk by the stuff that they want you fucking looking at more.
Man, that's fucking scary.
Like, that's what I mean, fucking scariest in the world. And that shit's not new, that shit's been around forever.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. Like, I suppose, you're aware of the fact that they're wanting to maximize their profits, but you're not thinking about how many the lengths to which they'll go.
It's fucking crazy, like. So these places are engineered to just fucking suck you dry, like. And then there's obviously the more obvious things then of the shit that's at the tills, the kind of impulse purchases,
the impulse buys,
or even little things like the bread and the milk. Always at opposite ends of the shop.
So you can't just go in for bread and milk.
Pretty much, you have to walk down to the place from one to get to the other.
Oh, Jesus,
and there's an endless amount of shit like that.
Yeah.
What's the other one? Red and yellow are two colours that are known to sell. Like, scientifically proven they sell. Blue is a colour that doesn't sell. The top three most popular colours in branding are red, yellow and blue, because blue stands out in front of so shit like that, like, it's engineered way beyond your.
You just think of all the kind of despicable people in rooms kind of thinking of new ways
with their little voodoo dolls fucking sticking pins in you, like
fucking being showered with $100 bills or something.
It's mad, like. And even the idea like of brands pay for shelf space in supermarkets, so that, but they'll pay more for eye level stuff. Holy shit, like. And that's rife in the layer of Facebook and like even the ads that you're served. Like, why is it that I always get ads for recording equipment or whatever it is?
I know,
and it's mad how fucking tailored things have become. Like.
It is.
But again, this is my answer to some form of a pushback against it, of sorts at least. That's
fight the good fight, absolutely.
Well, that's it,
Exactly. We'll have to go for a pee, man. We
no bother at all. So listen, do you want to finish up?
Yeah, we finish up,
Great having you on.
Thanks,
Where
man.
can people find either your past stuff, current stuff, future stuff?
Oh, it's places like SoundCloud, Bandcamp.
And what are they searching?
Well, for old stuff, Red Queen Contest. For new stuff, it's Sarah May, SARAMAI. SarahMayMusic.com. There's kind of basically updates on what we've been doing most recently, and it'd probably be that'll be the signpost for whenever the name changes. That'll be where you'll find out about the new name. So those kind of places. It's been a pleasure, man. Absolutely.
No, and listen, we'll get you back.
Yeah, cool. Definitely.
Because I'm hoping, providing this recording is okay, I'm hoping this is going to be the first published one.
Cool.
Because what I have is I've applied to be a speaker on TEDx Strata.
Okay.
So what I might do is I might upload my application video and my actual application to whether it's Facebook or YouTube or both or whatever. So that would be the kind of first one, because that kind of outlines my thoughts on pushing back against the domestication thing. So I'll put that up forward. Ideally, if I get to be a speaker on the TEDx thing, that'll be the next one, and then that's on the 3rd of November. And between now and then, I'd have done hopefully a second one with you maybe and a couple of other people. So I'd like to have 3 or 4 ahead of me, and then start kind of releasing them one after the other. But massively enjoyable, and can't wait to get you back on. So listen, 100% brother. Cheers.